Well, damn it. Fuck it. We're just going to continue. So, welcome to our first edition of Double Feature. You know, double features like you would at like the drive-ins that don't exist anymore for us.
Yeah, I remember those days. Fucking drive-ins.
Dude, you know what's sad? The last drive-in that was in Tucson, the last new movie that they played was the something with the side of meatballs.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
That was a good movie, actually.
It was, but it's not the movie you want to go out on.
Yeah.
I think.
But still, I mean, I don't think that we should not have those anymore. I mean, everybody streams fucking movies and all that, but there was still, like, fun going down to the fucking drive-in and chilling. I mean, your car's not exactly the most comfortable of venues, but it was still, like, a fun thing, you know? It was great.
Yeah,
it was great for date night.
It was, yeah, dude. I think I've only seen one movie in a drive-thru, and that was Toy Soldiers.
Small Soldiers.
Or Small Soldiers. But
that movie is enjoyable.
That movie is okay. So, yeah, Double Feature is kind of like a side of. We're going to take two movies that have something to do with each other.
Yeah.
You know, either they star the same actors, or they're created by the same people. They have to have something in common.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about
some kind of thing in common.
Something.
So, for instance, one that we talked about doing in the future was like Orgasmo and Basketball. The thing they have in common is they're both made by the same people, and they're both older content from those people. So, boom, There you go. There's the link. And in this case, we're doing Dexter's Lab, Ego Trip, a cartoon movie from Cartoon Network, and the Powerpuff Girls movie, which is, again, another cartoon movie from back in the day, Cartoon Network.
You know, and what I was the one that pitched this to Justin, and the reason I wanted to do this was because as a kid, I watched Cartoon Network all the time.
So did I, actually. I think I watched Cartoon Network more than any of the other ones, like Nick or Disney or whatever.
Yeah, and I think I asked you at some point, did you ever see Dexter's Lab Ego Trip? And I think you said
I've seen
maybe no.
parts of it, but I hadn't seen the whole thing. It was the same thing with the Powerpuff Girls movie. I had seen parts of it, but I never saw the whole thing. I never watched the whole movie.
And I was thinking, well, that's an excuse to let's watch that.
Exactly.
So
and I did enjoy them both.
Yes.
Although I'm sure a lot of it is coasting on nostalgia, but I don't even fucking care because I was delighted.
Well, all right. To be fair, though, your brother, who is under the age of 10.
Yeah, he's 8 or 9. Fuck, that's probably bad. I said that, but he's 8 or 9. I think he's 8.
But he got to watch these movies and he liked them. So.
Oh yeah, he liked them both, and he actually has seen the shows, and he likes both the shows.
Oh, I thought he honestly had seen nothing.
Oh no, he's seen them. When I told him I was watching them, he was like, "Oh, I want to watch those." He was like excited, and he liked them.
Aw, sweet.
So that's good. It's always nice to see like a cartoon that can hold up to the kids of another generation.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Just a little bit.
Instead of Uncle Grandpa.
Oh, Uncle Grandpa's going to be an example in the future of just like the low point of.
No.
Like
the
you
low
see a
point
trend.
is Secret Fort Mount Awesome, whatever. With the
I heard of it. I've never seen it.
It's literally the show coasts on the fact that it's disgusting. Like everything is just gross in that show. There's just it's kind of like Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh, okay.
It's just,
now I got you.
Who gives a shit? You know, it like its whole gimmick is gross, and it's completely forgettable.
I've been noticing that cartoons have always kind of have had a lack of logic. That's kind of their
of course
thing. But I always feel like more recently they're trying to be random for random's sake, not to build up any kind of joke.
Adventure Time.
Adventure Time, though, like, at first it seems like it is weird for weird's sake, but you do get to see some semblance of a story.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Adventure Time does random well. Everything else is trying to cash in on the random.
Yeah.
Uncle Grandpa, again, going back to it. It's not necessarily a bad show as far as cartoons go, but nothing makes any sense, and that's its gimmick, is nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
So...
Well, look at, have you ever seen The Amazing World of Gumball?
I have. That's actually not a bad show. That's another
Exactly.
one that's very random, but there's still, like, something going on.
Right. You know, you can be random. You can have weird things happening, but you still need some semblance of I don't want to say logic, but you need a story going on. Uncle Grandpa is just random. Like, you can do a show that's random without any kind of story, but it's called not a clip show, but
Like a day in the life type of show?
no, like a segment show, like Mad TV.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like those are all just small, funny jokes, and there's no interconnecting story usually. Those work, but if you're trying, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I get you.
But anyway, so we're going to start with Dexter's Lab
Ego
Trip.
So before we actually start into the movie, let's share our histories with the show, if you'd care to. So,
My history with the show? Well, I remember watching it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's really it. I watched it when
it
it first came on.
Yeah, I used to watch it every day or every other day or however often it was on. I used to watch it all the time. I always enjoyed it. It was a great show.
Did you know it only ran for 4 seasons?
That is regrettable, I guess.
78 episodes. Which keep in
still
mind,
a good number of episodes.
78 episodes, but usually each episode was cut into 2 segments, because that's what they did back then.
Yeah.
Which I guess they still do now. They still, some shows will still do the 2 segments thing instead of one long segment.
2 shows in an episode.
Yeah.
There are 2 stories or narratives in an episode.
Which I don't want to go back to this, but I gotta say this. One thing that's really pissed me off about Adventure Time, they do that, but instead of every week when they were producing new stuff, making 2 new segments, they make 1 new 15-minute segment and then just show you an old segment.
One. Yeah, it's
That's
little
annoying
bit
as shit.
lazy. It's like you're literally working for 15 minutes of animation a week. Can't give us at least 30? Come on. Cartoons have been doing this since the dawn of time.
Did you know that fucking Dexter's Lab was owned partially by Hanna-Barbera?
I did not. I probably could have guessed, but I didn't know anything about Dexter's Lab besides the show itself. You know,
well,
I never cared. I just watched the show when it was on.
Yeah. I guess we should talk a little bit about what the show is really about. It's really just kind of plain and simple. There's a kid named Dexter. It's basically Jimmy Neutron, but
it's a boy genius. And
well, I like Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, I do as well. But I still think Dexter's Lab's a better show.
It's really just a kid. If you don't know what Jimmy Neutron is either, it's just a kid. He's a boy genius. He has a lab in his house, and nobody knows about his lab except for his sister Dee Dee, who's kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And she just likes to destroy his shit because, I don't know, she's a bitch.
She's dumb, but she also has, this purity to her in a way, so nothing bad ever happens to her.
Not really.
She's kind of this, character that's... She just shows up, things happen around her, and then she leaves. Nothing ever happens to her, really.
Yeah.
And it's kind of there's a big play throughout the show where Dexter's always trying to get her away from him, and he's always doing these, not necessarily schemes, but... And they never work. It always backfires, things like that. And she's always messing with his shit.
Right, and they have like Jimmy Neutron, if I remember, a lot of the episodes... Well, not really. I'm trying to think if... Because Jimmy Neutron had this pattern of he'd make some kind of invention, and it would backfire, and he'd have to fix it. But I don't think that was normally the case for Dexter's Lab. I think it was just kind of a day in the life of Dexter being a boy genius.
Pretty much. And in Dexter's Lab, and one of the cool things is they always had these little side stories, too. Dial M for monkey and shit like that. And
interesting little tidbit. There's an episode. There's an episode of Dial M for Monkey that got not banned, but it got removed from rotation because it was what Dial.
Oh yeah, the Silver Surfer's in it.
Well, yeah, but in this one he's the Silver Spooner.
Yeah, he's super gay.
He's super
Well,
gay.
he's super stereotypically gay.
Yeah. And
Very
they're just like,
flamboyant.
yeah, we can't have that.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then there's another one, which is the rude removal, which they took that out because they cursed.
Oh, okay.
Constantly they cursed in this episode.
So basically, Dial M for Monkey is Dexter makes a super smart monkey or some shit like that, but he's secretly a superhero. Dexter doesn't know.
But here's the funny thing. Dexter doesn't know that Monkey is a superhero.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah, it's just... But that's like a side thing. Like, that was just another part of Dexter's lab.
Yeah, it's just a sideshow.
I don't remember. Do you remember the superhero group in that?
Yeah, the Super Justice Friends or whatever they're called.
Yeah, but I swear, you know what's weird? They were also in the Powerpuff Girls.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So that means that technically Dexter's lab is in the same world as the Powerpuff Girls.
It'd be cool to see some kind of crossover.
Oh, dude. Later, after the show, I'll show you something. But anyway, so that's
ominous.
That's ominous. So that's the show. So Dexter's Lab Ego Trip, which actually I thought it was like a finale to the series because of the way the movie is set up.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's actually just like a... I think it was meant to be.
Oh.
Because what happened is they came out with 2 seasons, and then they came out with the movie, and then 2 or 3 years later, they brought back Dexter's Lab for 2 more seasons.
Oh, okay.
So I really think that the movie was supposed to be the finale.
Yeah. Even though it doesn't resolve anything.
It doesn't, but it just kind of
It
does,
creates a whole slew of new problems, in a way.
It only solves that you get to see what becomes of Dexter in the future.
That's true, yeah.
That's really all you get to see.
Kind of get to see his destiny.
Chicken Scratch. The
What?
fuck is Chicken Scratch? I'm reading this thing off of the wiki, and it says something about the Powerpuff Girls movie, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck?
Okay.
Anyway.
Odd.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway,
Go through
the movie. I gotta get my notes out now. Whoop.
Well, so my very first note is that, because I went and watched it online, it's really short. The movie itself is like 48 minutes.
Yeah,
So it's just like an extended episode.
It's the length of about 2 or 3 segments.
Yeah.
Kind of crammed together.
So I have here great opening shots / music.
When
with Mandark, yeah,
through the place.
it's it's the epitome of Dexter's Lab. It's just the essence of what that show is. Going through the opening there, like you see the shots of Mandark, and it's got the weird animation and stuff. Like it has this very Dexter's Lab feel, and right from the start, I'm like, I haven't watched this show in fucking years, and I'm already fucking ready.
Well, you know what? Right before we go into more notes, I feel like we should probably talk of the characters that are the main characters in this.
Sure, go for it.
All right, so Dexter himself is just a little kid. I don't remember if they ever say what his age is. He's just a little kid.
Yeah, he's just young.
And he's super short for some reason. He's a ginger. And
even though
he got
oh no, his mom's got red hair. I was gonna say even though.
Oh no, his mom's got red hair. That's right.
Mom.
But he's got a weird accent for some reason that nobody else in his family has.
And it's such a strange accent. I can't put it. I can't put my finger on it. It's like
Isn't it?
a mixture of fucking like German and like something else. It's just really
some kind of weirdness.
Russian and fucking.
There actually is an episode where they bring it up. Like, there's an episode about this bully who hates kids with accents, so he picks on Dexter. And it's like, that's right. Why does he have that freaking accent?
So
that's really weird.
But you just it just fits him for whatever reason.
And then Dee Dee, who is his sister, we talked a little bit about her, but all you really got to know about her is that she annoys the shit out of Dexter.
Yeah. And she's not present in this movie for like 90% of it. Yeah,
pretty much. And then Mandark, who is probably the biggest antagonist of the show and of the movie.
Yeah, he's the arch rival.
He's basically evil Dexter. He comes off as not quite as smart as Dexter, but he's evil.
Yeah, he's evil, and he's in love with Dee Dee. And
his
backstory is actually kind of funny.
Oh, do you remember his backstory?
He was raised by like hippies, and they named him like Flower Child or some shit like that.
Yeah, and then he came across some kind of weird science device, and he's just like, "Ping! I'm gonna be a scientist."
I'm going to be a man, a dark man, Mandark, or something, and like that.
Well, here's the thing: the reason he becomes evil, I guess, is because his parents dressed because they're hippies. They don't conform.
Yep.
So he was wearing like pink overalls with a flower on his chest, and he had long, kind of girly-esque hair. And he runs into Dexter, and Dexter makes fun of him because of the way he looks. And then he runs away, and he puts a bowl over his head. He cuts his hair, and it has a crack in the bowl, so that's where he gets the M in his hair.
Yeah.
And then he decides to be evil.
Yep.
And it's so funny because it's like, wow, if Dexter wasn't such a douche,
then this entire movie wouldn't even exist.
Pretty much, man.
Well, you know, it's whatever. Dexter is just kind of a douche in general.
Yeah, you're gonna learn.
He's got
that.
an ego, hence ego trip.
Ego trip. All right, so now I continue with your notes.
Okay, so just the opening shots are great. It was really good. I enjoyed the animation and the music, and you get to see Mandark and all his shtick, and you're like, it really starts you off fast, like, oh man, I can't wait. This is like an episode of Dexter's Lab on crack. I'm ready for this.
On crack, yeah.
On steroids or some shit.
The opening was pretty cool. I like how it's hard to explain it, but it's Mandark's silhouette, and he's running around laughing, like doing stuff. And the borders of the screen are very sharp and almost thorn-like.
Like jagged and shit, yeah.
Yeah, and they're moving to him doing stuff, and
it's just this.
And they move.
The embodiment.
They move in a way, and in the jagged thorns, it says like director and writers.
Yeah, it's the opening
That's a really
credits.
cool way to. Yeah, it's a really cool way to do the credits, the opening credits.
Yeah. And then he
the very first
into Dexter's house and all that shit.
Yeah, and then he runs over to Dexter's house, and the very first joke that they throw at you is an adult joke because you see Dexter's parents. Really, you only see their hands at first.
Yeah, and you just
they look
like
they're
on the ground.
Yeah, and the wife says, "Honey, I don't think that'll fit," and he's like, "No, it will. Don't worry."
The dad's like, "I don't think that's gonna fit," or something like very suggestive, and then the camera pans down, and they're playing Twister.
Now, here's the funniest thing about that, though. That's the only adult joke they really play.
Yeah, throughout
in the whole movie, and why they decided to just throw that in there,
I don't know.
But I thought that was pretty funny. Just the very first thing. Yeah, let's throw adult humor.
Yeah.
Bam.
So basically, what happens is Mandark shows up. He goes upstairs to go to Dexter's lab and like confront him for something.
Well, no, he doesn't want to necessarily confront Dexter. He wants to steal the core.
Oh, that's right, the core.
Yeah. I mean, there's a long name, but I only wrote down the core. It's essentially just an energy
It's a
core.
power device.
Yeah.
And it looks like a fucking atom. It's got things going around it, and it's glowing. It's like your typical mad scientist cartoon power source.
Right, and then Dexter beats him and sends him away, and he's like, "As long as I live, Mandark, you will never get the core." And
as long as
Mandark
I live, I'll always get the core or some shit.
Or I will steal the core or something.
Yeah.
And then right after that, Dee Dee walks in, and Dexter's just like having... And it's funny, because what Dexter's doing is he's just tightening a bolt.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Well, that's what he's always doing, is tightening
he's
bolts.
Always
he's always got his wrench, his trusty wrench.
And Dee Dee walks in and like is like doing shit in the background. He just doesn't care. And then she comes up to him and is about to say something. He's like, "You know what, Dee Dee? I don't care.
Just get the fuck.
Get out of my lab." and she's like, she doesn't say anything this whole time. She just walks off, and she walks into this device of some kind, and then teleports away. And then a split second later, these 4 robots come walking out.
Yeah, they just like these. Well, they're these like small red robots that are like whatever. And then he's just like, what the fuck's going on here? And they go up and they're like, we're going to destroy the person who saves the future. And then they transform into these giant, like, vicious-looking robots and whatever. Dexter's like, what the fuck?
And probably one of the coolest scenes in the movie, he uses all these devices to beat them off.
To beat them off.
To beat the robots.
Make them cum their oil all over his fucking eager chin.
Oh, dude, no. But he destroys them Really easily, by the way. It's not like the robots do anything. They just stand there.
They just stand there. But he, like, gets this suit with these crazy inversing black and white color schemes, and he, like, creates these discs and flies around and saw blades them apart and stuff. And then he gets his not mech suit, he gets his, like, exosuit, and he fights one, and then he brings out a mech, and it crushes one, and he's just like, yeah, I'm a badass. And one of my notes, Dexter's a badass. He kind of is.
He is. He really is. And then he's like, wow, I saved the future. Now I just gotta wait for it. A couple seconds later, the future takes too long. I'm just gonna use my time machine that I apparently have.
Yeah.
Which, that would have been cool for the time machine to show up at some other point, or maybe him build a time machine. Granted, they didn't have a lot of time, but he just has one.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the machine that Dee Dee walked into was a time machine, so that kind of makes you wonder, like, well, where did she go then?
Yeah, but it's just not important. You just don't care. It's fucking Dee Dee.
So he goes into the future, and he walks out, and he's like, well, my lab isn't different at all. But then he runs into a thing, and this, like, family is like, who are you? And he's like, what are you doing in my lab? And they're like, what are you doing in our rec room?
Yeah, in our rec room.
And they're like, what's your number? He's like, and here's the thing, Dexter's so cocky, like, I don't have a number, I'm just a kid. Like, that's how he talks to everybody. I don't know, it's weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just like, I don't have a job, I'm just a kid.
Sure.
Or, I'm savior of the future. You know, he's just kind of really cocky through the whole...
Yeah, he's got an ego.
He's got an ego, thus ego trip.
And I actually have a note here that says, let's go to the future where everything is what the fuck.
Where everything's what the fuck.
And it kind of is like that, because, you know, as always happens in these kinds of time travel things, they go to the future and things aren't what they seem. It's always oppressive, and there's fucking peacekeepers, and everything's weird and dystopian, and it's like, what the fuck happened?
Pretty much.
So in this case, he's number 12, and they're trying to get him to his place because he's got to be there or something. And he's like, oh,
right, actually, the cops come. I forgot that they actually get the cops called on.
Yeah, and he runs away
because he doesn't have a number, and apparently having no number is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Enough for people to come very quickly. By the way,
they were just there.
They're just there, and then they start firing at him as soon as he runs away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty serious crime to not have a number.
Oh yeah.
And so this robot picks him up and scans it, which I remember thinking, ow, that looks so fucking painful, because he picks him up with these claw hands on the skull, by the way, and just picks him up. He's upside down.
And it scans his eye, and the eye is like higher quality drawing.
Yeah, it was really intense with the eye, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And he's like, oh, you're number 12. Why aren't you at your cubicle? And he's like, I don't work. I'm a fucking boy genius.
Yeah. Why should I have to work? The fuck?
And then so it takes him over there, and you actually get to see, I guess, 20-year, like...
However, it's like...
He's an adult, but he looks like a young
He's not the adult Dexter. He's like...
Yeah, I just figured he's in his 20s. Yeah. And he's kind of lanky. He's really tall, it turns out. That's kind of... He's really lanky. He's kind of hunched over, and, like, he's getting ready for work, and he's, like, 8 minutes early for work.
This guy was almost late.
Yeah, I was almost late. 8 minutes early, and then Mandark turns out to be his boss, because you can just tell from his voice.
Oh, of course.
Because he's got that fucking, ha-ha-ha.
Yes, he does.
And then it's kind of funny, because his chair, like, locks him in place, and then rolls him to Mandark's office, which is really cool. It's like on top of this building, and there's this giant golf course,
and there's peacocks and shit, and he's like in a hot tub with women like rubbing his feet and shit.
And they really, for whatever reason, wanted to show his butt to the camera. So
yeah.
Oh, well, I guess
right before that, Mandark is like, "You are almost late again. Come on in. It's time for your public flogging."
Yeah, really. Well, like, what? And then he gets like strapped into this. I don't know what you would call it. It's like a ring.
And it's like a Victorian wheel, and it's pulling him from all angles, but it's not pulling him apart.
Yeah, it's just holding him in place. And then he's like, you know, do you have anything to say for yourself? And he's like, can I get padding? And he's like,
no.
No.
Can I
and
get
then he
some
starts whipping him.
Yeah, and then he brings out a fucking laser whip. Just starts whipping him. I even have a note right here. It's all caps. Fucking laser whip. And so he's just whipping him, and again the quality of the drawing like ups a little bit here. It's a little more detailed, and he's like hunched over, and his neck is all tense, and like it's kind of not disturbing, but it's a little bit like, holy shit, this is a kid's show.
Yeah, really.
He's just whipping him.
Yeah, repeatedly. And then, while this is happening, Dexter... Young Dexter. I'm going to say Kid Dexter.
Okay.
Kid Dexter gets put in his office, and then he realizes, oh shit, that's me up there. Like, it takes a little bit of figuring out, but that's me up there.
Yeah.
And then he passes out, I guess, from the sheer shame of it. And when he wakes up, adult Dexter? I'm going to call him Wimpy Dexter. Wimpy Dexter. Rolls in, and they are, like, I swear, about to kiss. They're that fucking close. And then they're talking to each other, and Wimpy Dexter, you get to really see how afraid he is of Mandark.
Yeah, and actually, there's a really funny part later that made me laugh out loud that involves his wimpiness and how afraid he is of Mandark.
Oh, I think I know what it is, but...
You probably do.
But you know what? First question, now that I think about it, they never explain why Dexter becomes a wimp. Because as a kid, he's very brave. Granted, yes, he has an ego, but he's very brave. Mm-hmm. He has no fear of Mandark because he always beats him. But just at some point,
Mandark just kind of won, and then I assume over the years. Because if you remember later, it's kind of explained what happens very quickly, but Mandark kind of, takes over, and he stages a coup, and he takes over the company and all that, and he just kind of owns Dexter at that point. And he probably just has been fucking with him over the years, and that's probably what did it.
I'm just surprised that Dexter allowed it to happen, because he knows how evil Mandark is. But that was just one nitpick. It was kind of one hole that they never really filled. Mm-hmm. Plot hole. So he finally convinces Wimpy Dexter to stop being such a wimp. He's like, Dexters are lions, tigers, and bears. Oh, man.
Oh, my. Yeah, they did the lion, tiger, bear, oh, my joke. I thought that was a nice little homage. And
there's actually kind of a cool scene. I don't know if... Well, I'm sure you caught this, but when you first see Wimpy Dexter, he's not wearing his signature gloves.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah, he's actually... he just has really long sleeves, and you can still see his fingers. But when they're about to leave... Well, no. I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. So Dexter's upset, Kid Dexter, because Wimpy Dexter's such a wimp. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what do you even do? And he's like, oh, I design cubicles. I made it 10 by 10. I increased the dimensions by 1 foot. And he's so upset about that. But then he's like fucking around in the office, and he sees, Kid Dexter sees the core.
Yeah, he finds the core.
And he sees this. Well, he sees plans for what he could do with the core, which makes me wonder, I guess Dexter as a kid never thought, like, I'm going to make this core and then do nothing.
Do nothing with it, yeah.
He makes things just so he can say he made things.
Basically. And so the designs are for, like, a super power source.
It's supposed to do... I don't think at the time we knew exactly what it was going to be used for.
I think he said it was a power source or something.
Well, the core is a power source, but what the core was going to power... We didn't know at the time. We know, like, in the next segment.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not quite sure, but...
And then, let's see, do I have anything
they convince... Well, Kid Dexter convinces Wimpy Dexter to, go with him, so they, like, leave and they time travel again.
Well, before that, one of the running thing that happens in the cubicle is Mandark will say, typing! And then he'll go back to typing.
Yeah, yep.
And then typing, and then, but when they leave the core and the blueprints just on the floor.
Fucking idiots.
And then Mandark comes down to the office and picks it up, and then he starts laughing maniacally, and you're like, oh, that's not good.
That's not good. So then
you go on
a little further into the future.
You know what? I think you could really cut this movie into 4 segments.
Mm-hmm.
Before he time travels, his wimpy self, this one we're about to do, and then the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, so yeah, go ahead. Third segment.
Okay, so basically he goes in the future, and he's in his lab again, and he finds his robot, and he's like, what the fuck? And he, like, pulls a chunk of it off. He's like, what? It's not made of metal. And then he, like, bites it, and he's chewing on it, and he's like, huh, and he spits it out.
Yeah, he just eats styrofoam.
Like,
Nom, nom.
what the fuck? So that was a funny joke.
There's a really small comedic scene where when they appear, they're in like a glass bubble, and Wimpy Dexter is just freaking out because he's like, "We're gonna die!"
We're suffocating. It's getting dark.
And then Dexter has like this small laser, and he starts to open.
And hold on one sec. It takes him a second. He's sitting there like, "How are we gonna get out of here?" And then he snaps his finger, and then pulls the fucking laser pen out. Supposed to be a genius. Took him that long? Come on.
And then Wimpy Dexter busts through it anyway, so there's
breaks the glass.
With no cuts or anything.
Nope.
So
of course not. It's a cartoon.
And then
they're in this museum type thing.
Yeah. And then he knocks over the giant robot.
This is the far future, by the way.
Yeah, we don't. Well, yeah, this is really far. We don't know. We find this out just in a little bit. But this really effeminate man that's dressed like Dexter walks in. Is like, who would do this museum to our leader? And it's like, it's you, and it's you. You're them. And,
yeah, and they're under banners of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. And then he's talking about how he actually explains what the device was, and essentially, Dexter made this device that basically radio transmits all of his knowledge in science into everybody. So everybody's a genius.
The entire planet is filled with peace, prosperity, and wisdom.
Yes.
So I actually wrote down Dexter's Jesus. He saves everybody.
Yeah. A little bit.
And this is the current time period is like a far future after he's saved the future.
Yeah.
So they decide they're going to go find oh, by the way, in the museum is Mandark's brain.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised we forgot that. Yeah, when it's funny, Mandark says something. You don't see him yet, you just hear his voice, and then Wimpy Dexter immediately crouches on the ground and starts typing in the air.
This is the joke. This is the one that made me laugh out loud. He just wimpily like falls to the ground. He's like, I'm typing! And he's just sitting there like clicking away at nothing. It's just made me laugh.
But yeah, he's a brain in a vat, and it's like, in retrospect, that's a little brutal seeing
And actually you see how that happens later.
And that's even more brutal.
It is more brutal.
But, yeah, Mandark in the far future is just a brain in a vat in a museum.
Yep.
And, so that makes you wonder, like, well, what the fuck? What happens to him? So they decide to go check, Dexter still wants to find out, well, how did I save the future? So he goes to talk to his old self.
Yeah.
And he lives in this fucking tower.
They have a little Wizard of Oz moment where he's like, you know, who addresses the powerful savior of the future and all that.
Yep. And then, we're your present self. And he's like, presents?
Yeah.
I want presents.
I want presents!
And then I thought it was pretty funny when he makes his trek down the tower.
He's very slowly walking down all the stairs, and then he falls the rest of the way.
Yep.
Very typical of a cartoon, but,
And so, they talk to old Dexter.
And this is like super old Dexter.
This is super old Dexter. He's all short again, like Kid Dexter height.
Mm-hmm. He uses a wrench to like walk around.
To walk, that's pretty funny. And he's just like there's another joke that I thought was really funny, and it's like, imagine a world in need of a hero. Yes. Do you remember that, where he's just describing what Dexter thinks happened, and the old guy's like, yes. You remember now? No.
Misdirection.
I don't know why, but I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But he doesn't remember anything, so they're like, we're just going to go to that part of the future, because I just want to see it, and they all decide to go.
Oh, yeah, and they're like, he's not coming with us.
He's not coming with us. And then he gets in this little flying saucer, which is really cool.
Because Dexter created technology where you think something and it, like, makes it. So he, like, thinks up a fucking flying saucer thing and then flies in it.
Yes. And that was pretty cool. Well, actually, another kind of cool thing is the curator, I guess, the person that takes the Dexters to old Dexter,
Mm-hmm.
he makes a bubble with his mind, and it travels. It takes them to the. Which is probably another reference to the Wizard of Oz, because if you remember, the chick was in a bubble, and
Yeah, probably.
yeah. So then they finally get to go to the last segment, which is we're gonna call him
right here. I have elevator up joke, but I don't remember what that joke was, but it stood out to me for whatever reason. Elevator up. Do you recall what that
Elevator
means?
up?
I watched the movie last night, and I actually just watched the Powerpuff Girls movie, so that's more fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I know. And I saw Dexter's Lab yesterday, and I cannot think of elevator up.
Oh.
Elevator up? Maybe it's.
Oh, I remember. Okay, yeah, they're like, it's the the old one. He says like elevator up, and like in that one moment, he's like dressed like a bellhop, and that made me laugh. Just because
When does this happen?
It was before they went to the next segment of time. I don't remember what they were doing, but he's just like elevator up. And he's, like, wearing a typical, like, the red bellhop outfit and all that. It was, I don't know. It stood out to me. It was funny.
Okay. And then, so they all go into the
then past, but the normal future from Kid time.
And the lab is completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's all fucked up.
It's in wreckage, and
they're
like, what happened? And they kind of crawl out, and it's very, like, the atmosphere is dark, and it's just
all black and red, basically.
Yeah, and they come across this town because they're like, well, maybe they'll know what's going on.
It's a village of idiots.
And, yeah, they live in mud huts.
Yep.
And they're noticing that people are just being
fucking retarded.
Yeah, like, pretty damn stupid. Like, there's a guy carrying a horse instead of riding it. There's a guy that's
He's pulling
walking
a cart with square wheels.
There's a guy that's walking on hammers, and another guy hammering with a shoe.
Yep.
And then they do this pan where they show all these people, and they're just kind of homely looking.
And they're just, like, laughing and stupid.
And there's this one guy that Dexter tries to talk to, and he's just picking his nose the entire time he's talking to him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, the same guy that's picking his nose, later he's like, come on, fire, come on. And he's like, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to make the fire go.
No, he says, like, try make fire, or some shit. Like, he talks in broken English.
Yeah.
Because they're idiots.
And then Dexter's just like, all right, watch this. And he rips the beard hair off one guy.
Yeah, and then he puts it under the thing, and he gets a rock, and he makes a fire the way you're supposed to make a fire.
And then these robots come and says, science is forbidden!
Yeah, and they immediately vaporize the fire, too.
Yeah.
It just ceases to be.
Which is really weird now that you think about it.
Yeah.
How do you vaporize?
Machine Man.
Machine Man! The Overlord's Machine Man, yeah. And you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Dexters are like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah.
And out from the horizon
comes a silhouette. You don't see him until after the fight.
But he's just fucking them up.
Does he come in on, like, a motorcycle?
Yeah.
And then he's, like, got a giant wrench, and he's breaking the robots. He's, like, unscrewing their arms and, like, heads, and they're, like, flying off. And it's really cool. He's flying around through the air, breaking them, and things are blowing up. It's very...
There's a really cool gadget that he uses. It's like... Imagine like a spinning top, but it's got arms, and on the arms is two magnets, and he throws it, and it catches two robots and smashes them together.
Yeah, and like pulls in, and they like fly in and blow each other up.
Yeah, so that was really cool.
And then he shows up, and it's Dexter.
And he's really cool looking. Like
Dexter.
He's bald, but he's got a beard, and he's super buff.
Yeah.
And
he's got the accent still. It's great.
He really does. And
so I went to the future, and that is when I fought the Mandark. Like,
it's almost so like a bad rendition of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, kind of, actually, yes.
Yeah. But and his outfit is cool because he still wears the lab coat, but it's all ripped at the arms,
like frayed and worn,
and it's not buttoned up, so you get to see what Dexter wears under there, which is apparently a black onesie. I think I don't know what the that is.
Yeah, so he's basically a badass.
Yeah, and they're just like Dexter. I cannot do his accent, but it was so cool.
Dexter.
Whatever. And then so he explains it all, and it's in this like different art style, and that whole segment of what happened is just great, because the story of it is just kind of like, I mean, I guess it's cool, but you know, it's typical cartoon where logic doesn't make sense and all that shit. But the art style is pretty cool, and it's just, like, enjoyable. I don't know.
Are we going to talk about it, or we just want to...
Yeah, we can talk about it. So basically what happens is Mandark and Dexter work for this company, making ideas for them, and Mandark starts stealing Dexter's ideas, and then he makes a lot of money. He raises through the ranks, and then he stages a coup and takes over the company. And then presumably at some point, he, starts fucking with Dexter, and Dexter becomes the wimpy version of himself. And then he finds the core, and he does something to it and, like, reverses it. So instead of making everyone really smart, it makes everybody really stupid. And he just kind of takes over. I mean, I guess that's kind of... Dexter escapes and crawls underground for years.
Right, and, he takes the core, and he takes what Dexter's design, but instead of making everybody smart, it takes all of their intelligence into himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the
and it drives him mad. Yeah, and it drives him mad. And,
he becomes super evil and...
Like, even more super evil than he was, I guess, before.
Yeah.
And, so that's what happens.
And Dexter escapes and crawls underground for years. And over the years, he loses his hair, he grows a beard, and he gets buff. And he apparently doesn't need to eat or shit or sleep or anything.
Or at least they don't address how he managed to do this.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's a cartoon. He did it on pure seething justice.
And so it's like, yeah, we're going to take you to the lab. And he's like, the lab? I thought that thing lost years ago.
It's like, yeah, well, we found it.
They go, and there's this montage of them
right at the beginning, they open, like, an emergency box. It's like, emergency, and they open it, and it's got all these wrenches in it.
Yeah.
They take the wrenches. Yeah. And then they actually reuse the joke later when they finish their montage. They open it, and it's full of root beer.
Ice cold root beer.
Yeah, where they got root beer in a dystopian future is beyond me, but...
Yeah, really? Well, it's for an emergency. I'm sure they packed it away years ago.
Yeah.
And somehow they have the technology that ice doesn't melt in that amount of time.
Yeah. Well, they've got the technology to build a giant fucking robot, so...
Yeah, pretty much.
They
build this
montage. Yeah, and they build this...
They do this montage, and they make this robot, and...
It's so badass.
And they go to storm the castle.
Right before they go to storm the castle, though, there is a line that made me laugh out loud, and I did write the line down, but the badass Dexter, he's like, allow me to pat myself on the back.
Really?
Allow me to pat myself on the back. That one made me laugh out loud, because it's simple, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a good joke to me.
Pretty much.
And their robot is totally badass.
So while they're driving up to, not when they hit the tower, because Mandark lives in this big tower,
of course.
You get to finally see what Mandark looks like in that time period, and he's super fat.
Mm-hmm.
And really
he has
gross.
a goatee. He's got like it's not a full beard. It's like a tiny little bit of hair on his chin, but it's an M.
Yeah. And here's a funny thing. I don't know if you caught this, but so when you first see Mandark, he's in a basically a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
And they lift him up, like they have to get a hook, and they lift him out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
He's still wearing socks and shoes in the hot tub.
Oh, really? I missed that.
Yeah, I saw it like, oh, that's funny. But yeah, and he's like, I've got tricks of my own. Ha ha. And so another montage. Well,
it's like an action scene where they're storming the castle, and Mandark sends all his robots out after them.
And it's cool how the robot adapts, because like first it's on this kind of not wheels, but
like treads.
Like treads, and then they get rid of that, and then because it's got 4 arms, the one pair of arms becomes the legs.
Yeah, like breaks and goes down, and then starts walking on its hands and using its leg hands as like guns and stuff. Like
it was pretty.
It keeps adapting. It's really over the top, but like that's how cartoons should be. You know, the action was so over the top, but not in such a way that it detracted from what was going on. You still knew what was happening. It all made sense, but the action was just so like. Just over the top. Like, he's shooting finger lasers out of his fucking robot's second arms that it just shifted to its legs because the treads broke off or something. Like, it was just really cool.
Nice. And,
oh, yeah, and the fat future Mandark makes me lol. That's what I wrote down. It's just like, I don't know, he's just funny. He's fat and gross, and he's got the little M. It's just great.
Oh, he's also bald.
Oh,
That's why
yeah.
I think they put the little M there, is because he's also bald.
Yes, of course.
Because you go bald in the future. That's what Dexter's Lab teaches us.
Of course.
So they storm. There's a funny line. So they storm the castle, but they barely make it through. Like, the robot's pretty trash by the time they actually get to where Mandark is. And it's funny because he's like, we beat your robots, you know, and no, you didn't. They're still out there. The fact that they don't ever come in and help Mandark is pretty weird, but no, they're still out there.
Yeah. I still have them. You didn't break them at all.
And then Mandark's like, you know, you think by combining 4 of you that you can beat me? Well, I'm going to level the playing field. And there's this really cool thing where this giant pocket watch starts coming down, and then they just appear.
Pretty badass.
The different Mandarks, Kid Mandark.
That we've seen so far, yeah. The
the 4 Mandarks that we've seen.
The parallel to Wimpy Dexter Mandark.
Now,
the Brain Mandark, and then, of course, the future one.
I'm going to bring up another issue I had with this movie, right at this scene. So, the other 3 Mandarks, they're not freaked out at all that their future self is a brain in a vat.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like, wait, let's avoid whatever the fuck you did, 'cause I don't want to be a brain in a vat later.
Yeah, they just are okay with it.
They just accept it, like, you know.
I'm going to live on as, you know, a hollow shell of my humanity.
Exactly. And,
they have this big epic Dexter's versus Mandarks fight, where
they're all pretty funny.
Each one fights their archetype, or whatever, their parallel.
Not their archetype,
Yeah,
but
their parallel,
yeah. And, Kid Dexter versus Kid Mandark is pretty funny because they're just, like, slapping each other. And,
yeah.
And then, I don't know if you caught this, but the way Mandark punches Dexter, he's got, like, one hand over his face.
Yeah, he's, like, holding his face, and it's just, like, he just punches him slightly. It's like a little slap to the face, but he's punching him.
Yeah. and then,
Brain Dexter
Wimpy
falls on old Dexter. Just, like, holds him down.
He doesn't fall. Well, old Dexter falls, and he's just kind of pinned. He can't get back up.
Yeah, but I could have sworn that the brain was over his legs or something like that.
He was entangled in it, but the brain didn't move at all.
Oh, okay.
So he just fell.
beat himself, essentially.
Yeah. Because all they were doing is just, like, calling each other names, like, Nincompoop.
Yeah.
And then, Wimpy Dexter versus, I don't know, Businessman Mandark.
Mandark, yeah.
Businessman is just bitch slapping him. Like,
yeah, just over and over.
And it's so funny. But then Wimpy Mandark mans up and he, like, puffs out his chest.
Hold on, not quite yet.
Oh, you want to get to the...
Fat Mandark is fighting Badass.
No, that's the cool one because that's Badass Dexter.
Yeah, exactly.
With the big wrench, he's just...
They're fighting and the Mandark is being, like, suspended, and he's flying around and using his weight to, like, crush things and hit it.
Like a wrecking ball.
Like a wrecking ball, yeah. And so all the Dexters are kind of losing. And then the bitch slapping kind of gets on the wimpy, nerdy ones. They're all nerdy, but the wimpy Dexter's fucking... He goes crazy. And he, like, literally unleashes the lion, tiger, and bear. Like, the like, spirits of them fly out of his body.
Oh, you know what? Okay, you know what broke him?
What's up?
Is that he was slapping him, and then his glasses fall off.
Oh, yeah, and he breaks them.
And there's actually another joke with the whole lion and tiger bear thing, because when he shows the lion, the tiger, and the bear, Mandark's like, "Oh my!"
Oh yeah, oh my! So they do that again, running gag.
Yeah. and then he punches him and takes his glasses.
And then he starts being a badass.
Yeah, apparently they have the same prescription eyewear.
Yep.
And then they realize that if they press this button, you know, if they can press the positive button, they'll undo what Mandark's done. So there's this really cool, like, one Dexter tries to make it, but then a Mandark catches him, and there's this long line of one holding the other back.
Yeah, they're all holding each other in a line. But hold on, now did this happen before the line or after, where Mandark, like, his fingernail pops up and he pushes a button on his finger?
Oh,
remember that? The finger button?
Yeah, I don't know what the button did.
I don't remember either, but I just remember, like, what the fuck? So the future Mandark, the fat one, he, like, on his finger, like, his fingernail, like, lifts up and there's a fucking secret button that does something.
He's a fucking robot.
Yeah.
He's a cyborg.
But anyway, so they do this line where this person like is trying to get to the button and he gets tripped up, and then that person gets tripped up by the Dexter, and the Dexter trips up the Mandark trips up the Dexter.
And then Kid Dexter's the closest to the button.
Yeah, and he's trying to push it.
Now this is, I don't know if this was meant to be a joke, but I thought this was really funny. If you're watching, Buff Dexter is holding on to Businessman Mandark.
Yeah.
But the way he's holding him is like a snake almost, like he's bending him and contorting him.
Oh, really? I missed that.
And I was like, that is pretty awesome. Like, I don't know.
And then they all start cheering for Dexter. Like, Dexter!
Like, go,
do
Dexter,
it.
go!
Yeah, go, Dexter! And then
all of a sudden...
Yeah, right before he's able to push the button, zap! Dee Dee shows up. Silently, no word. Everyone's watching, except the Mandarks are all like, Dee Dee!
Well, it's actually funny, because Mandark's like, Dee Dee! And then all the Dexter's like, Dee Dee?
Yeah. And then she just kind of walks up, pushes the button, and then just...
Nah, she does say something.
What does she say?
She says, what does this button do?
Okay, yeah, of course. But I mean...
Because that's her catchphrase.
Yeah,
that's not really
they don't
catchphrase.
address anything, though. She just pushes the button and then, walks away. Saves everybody. And I actually wrote down Dee Dee Ex Machina.
Dee Dee Ex Machina.
It might as well have been.
Yeah, because they built it up. I mean, we did see her leave.
Yeah, but, it was such a little thing that you pay no mind to it, so it might as well be a Dee Dee Ex Machina.
Oh, dude, I mean, it's been a really long time since I saw, and I knew how it ended, but I was like, Dee Dee time traveled. I mean, granted, they don't, verbally acknowledge it, but she time traveled. Where the fuck did she go?
See, and that's the thing. I might have just missed it, but I don't remember her time traveling at the beginning.
It's because when he says, you know, because he's like, Dee Dee, get out, and then Dee Dee walks one way, and he's like, no, the exit's that way. She turns around, and you watch her go into the machine, and then it flashes gears, and then the robots come out.
Okay, yeah, I just kind of missed that part then, I guess.
Okay. But I was like, yeah, where the fuck did she go? And
so then the machine fixes everything, and all the idiots become, refined socialites,
and all the Mandarks, except for the present of where they are, disappear.
And then the fat one pops. He doesn't explode, he pops.
All his fat in his stomach goes into his head, and then explodes.
Yes. And then it leaves the brain on the ground, and you're like, oh, well, that's what happened to him.
Yeah, that's how it happened. It's like, woo.
And then they're all, pissed. They're like, we were supposed to be the ones who saved the future. Fuck! So they get all mad, and they're like, you know what? This cannot end. And then it kind of they go into this short montage where the four Dexters are making the fucking robots from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then,
and then Dexter goes into he says bye to everybody, and there's a really short joke where, bye Dexter, bye Dexter, bye Dexter, bye Dexter, bye Dexter, bye Dexter,
bye Dexter,
bye Dexter, bye Dexter. They're all telling each individual one.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Bye Billy.
Bye Billy.
The old one just cannot remember, for whatever reason, he can't remember Wimpy Dexter's name.
Yeah, it's always Billy. Thanks, Billy!
So then Dexter goes to Kid Dexter goes to his present. And then he comes in right as, I guess his past self is fighting the four robots.
And you can actually see him destroying the robots in the background.
Yeah, and it's and then he just goes back to his day-to-day thing, and then he goes down to the kitchen to get a sandwich, and then Dee Dee shows up, and then he's looks at her all pissed and then walks away.
He just takes all of his food and shit and just walks away.
Now here's the fucked up part, though. This is the part that another thing about this movie. Dexter built the four robots.
Mm-hmm.
All four of them built robots to destroy Dee Dee.
That is true.
Not stop her.
To destroy
her.
Yes.
He's kind of a dick. He's and the thing is, it'd be one thing if it was Kid Dexter, because he's a kid.
But it was all the Dexters.
All the Dexters. And it's wow, so he never gets, over his own ego.
Exactly. So pretty much the entire movie has no moral.
Yeah.
So
there's no moral.
And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So what did you think? What's your verdict? How did you like it?
As a movie, as a Cartoon Network TV movie, television special, whatever you want to call it, it was good. It was very actiony.
Definitely.
And it was very much it was very much just like, the quality was exactly what, if you went from watching just any episode, and, well, first 2 seasons, because they did up the quality in the later seasons, but in the first 2 seasons, if you watched any episode and then watched the movie, there's virtually no difference.
Yeah.
So you're just watching an extended...
Yeah, it might as well have been a super episode.
Yeah.
And it was like, from what I remember of Dexter's Lab, I was going to say Jurassic Park for whatever reason. From what I remember of Dexter's Lab, it's like a perfect representation of what that show was all about. Like, it is exactly what I would expect out of a Dexter's Lab like movie, even though it wasn't really like a movie so much as, like a better episode. But it was highly enjoyable. I loved it.
Now, question: do you think this is a good way to introduce someone to Dexter's Lab? This movie?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, do you think enough is explained about who the characters are?
I don't think you need to explain any of it. Like, you can just come in, you see Dexter, you can tell he's smart, you see Mandark, he's the villain. Dee Dee, he obviously doesn't like her. That's really all you need.
Yeah, really. Actually, yeah.
Like, there's not really any subtlety to it. It's just kind of, this is how he is, this is how he is, this is how she is. There you go.
I don't know if it'd be a good way just because Dexter comes off as kind of a dick, and in the show...
It might
I haven't seen the show
from...
in a long time. I don't remember him being as much of a dick.
Yeah, I don't think he's as much of.
Yeah. So this might be a bad... Just in that regard, in case someone's like, well, Dexter's kind of a dick. Why would I want to watch him?
Because the show's awesome. So, I enjoyed it. So, what would you say? We good on Dexter's Lab? You want to move to Powerpuff Girls, or...?
Yeah, as a last remark, watch it. I mean, it's a good
Of course, I recommend it.
As long as you like cartoons, because it is a cartoon through and through.
It is
it's
so typical of a cartoon.
Yeah, this movie actually came out in, I think, December 10th, 1999. So this is just shy of the new millennium.
Yes.
But, yeah, I think we're good to move on.
Alrighty.
So going on to the Powerpuff Girls movie,
PPG,
which we'll do. I guess we'll do the exact same thing we did with the. Well, not exact. We'll do the same thing we did with Dexter's Lab. I don't really have any specific memories of the Powerpuff Girls. It was just a show that was on when I was a kid, and I liked it. I watched it, and it's very interesting that you and I are talking about this. We're being adult. Males in our 20s talking about... it's pretty much a girl show, but...
Yeah, kind of.
As a kid, I never really...
It didn't seem like a girl show to me.
Yeah, I didn't
Just because
care.
they're girls doesn't mean that it's a girl show. They were fucking fighting evil and blowing up the city, and they're like gods.
I think that's what made the show really great, is that, yeah, it stars kindergarten girls.
Yeah, the juxtaposition.
And some of the issues that they dealt with were very girl-centric.
Of course.
But they got the guy audience by having them just fuck people up.
Yeah. That's kind of funny.
I really like...
Powerpuff Girls did then what My Little Pony is doing now.
Yeah, but I don't remember Powerpuff Girls being like such a big deal.
Well, also, when did the Powerpuff Girls come out? When did the internet become such a big deal? I'm sure if the internet had been as... Because I'm sure the internet was around then. I don't know when the internet was started, but it didn't become as popular until, obviously...
Well, yeah, but you also didn't have the equivalent of bronies in the Powerpuff Girls.
Well, yeah, of course.
I think what it was is Powerpuff Girls... Boys watched it, but I don't think you heard a lot of like adult men becoming obsessed about it. But with
but how many adult men are obsessed with My Little Pony?
Enough, I guess, for there to be BronyCon.
I know, but just because you go to a con of something you enjoy doesn't mean you're obsessed with it.
Well, I'm saying there's got to be something. There's got to be a reason why My Little Pony has so much more media attention.
Because there's more media to give attention to it. Again, the internet shows... See, the thing is, I don't think that, like, especially with, like, fetishes and things like that, people didn't become sick. People were always sick. We now see it. I'm sure there were people who were like a brony, but for Powerpuff Girls, but you didn't see it because we weren't It wasn't so easily telegraphed to everybody, and there's probably another, like, the whole idea of, like, accepting gay people more and things like that. I feel like there's more of an atmosphere nowadays to accepting people into things, whereas if a grown man had said, I like the Powerpuff Girls in 99 or whenever, probably would have been looked at a lot differently than, someone today.
Okay, so do you think if the Powerpuff Girls had come out when My Little Pony had come out?
It probably, I mean, I'm not going to say it would have as big of a following or anything like that, but I'm sure that there would be some equivalent.
Okay.
Puffers or something, they'd call themselves.
Oh, okay. All right, so moving away from that
little tangent there.
Like I said, I don't really have any specific memories. I remember the episode. There was one episode that always stuck in my mind, which was called Speed Freaks, or Speed Freak. It's the one where they're racing each other, and they go so fast that they
travel through time
and
into a future where there was no Powerpuff Girls.
Right, because him is the devil.
Yes.
There's no other way around it. Once you see him, you just instantly, that's the devil.
Yeah,
and he takes over, and it's really dark and scary for
what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there were other shows at the time, cartoon shows, that were kind of creepy, like Courage the Cowardly Dog, and
Courage was very creepy, and we will eventually get around to that one. That one is fucking weird.
Yeah, but for Powerpuff Girls, they weren't really so much on the weird side. It was just...
No, of course not. It was just him.
Yeah.
But
and that episode was probably the creepiest one, to my knowledge.
Yeah, but a cool thing about it is all the various villains were kind of a different sort of archetype. Him is really creepy. Then you've got, like, Fuzzy Lumpkins, who's a villain, but he's just more of a fucking country bumpkin. And you got Mojo Jojo, who's the mad genius and all that. And him is the creepy character, like...
Yeah, a lot of the villains, if you really think about it, aren't that threatening. There's,
the
Fuzzy
Lumpkins,
girl,
the rich girl who's a douche.
Oh, what's her name?
I don't remember, but she's such a
Yeah,
bitch.
but she just buys things.
Sedusa?
And wants to...
Remember her?
Sedusa, yeah.
Who actually
Amoeba...
fights Miss Bellum instead of the fucking Powerpuff Girls.
Pretty much. The Amoeba Brothers.
The Green Gang.
Green Gang.
Which are more just street thugs than anything.
Yeah, but for some reason they're green and snake-like, which they never talk about.
One of them is snake-like, specifically.
Oh, Snake?
Probably.
That's the one that, like...
Yes.
Like in the movie, he's like...
And actually, in the movie, I wrote down a note, pre-Green Gang. It might have just been the art at the time or the coloring, but the first time they meet the Green Gang, I don't remember them being green. But then the next time in the movie they are green, and so I was like...
I'm pretty sure they're green.
It was just the art style, or not the style, but the coloring or whatever, because it was like at a dark time. But they didn't seem green to me, and so I was just wondering, were they street thugs? Did something happen to them? What's up with them? But
again,
they never find out. Yeah,
you just never do.
Exactly.
It's I'm like watching right now to see that scene where you first get to see the Green Gang, and just to see if they are. But yeah, the villains aren't very threatening.
Exactly.
On the most part, I mean,
except Mojo and him.
Mojo, because he's a
super genius.
No, they're green.
They're green?
Yeah, they're green.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of them are just kind of... I mean, their biggest threat, though, honestly, is either him, because he's the devil, or the Rowdy Rough Boys, which sadly are only in, like, two or three episodes.
They're not, like, a recurring thing.
Yeah, and they were... Which, if you can't figure out, the Rowdy Rough Boys are the male equivalents of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yes.
And it's actually kind of funny how they beat them. They beat them with cooties.
Yeah, they because the thing with the Rowdy Rough Boys is they're gross and they're like typical boys. Because they were made of like snips and snails and puppy dog tails or some shit like that.
Snips being like armpit hair snips.
Yeah.
And because Mojo's in jail, and then he's like, now I just need something like Chemical X. And apparently the prison toilet is
powerful enough
to create life.
Super powered life.
Yeah, really, shit.
But anyway, that's another tangent. That's
sorry.
That's neither here nor there.
So basic plot of the Powerpuff Girls, which you can watch the intro to any episode of the Powerpuff Girls and you essentially get it. There was a guy.
Oh wait,
named
hold
Professor
on. Did I ever say my history with the show?
No.
Basically, for me, it's just I watched the show all the time. I thought it was great, and I liked it. So there you go. But I never saw the movie, so boom. Now we move on.
So the intro to any episode is, there's sugar, spice, and everything nice. Those are the ingredients
chosen to create the perfect little girl. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup will fight crime and save the day. Or whatever the fucking speech is.
Yeah, that's all you really need to know.
That's literally all you need to know.
And the movie is essentially just kind of... Because in the beginning of the show, they never really... Actually, in the entire series, they never really talk about those first few days. It's just...
Everyone knows they're the Powerpuff Girls.
Everybody loves them.
Everyone, yeah, and everyone loves them. Everybody
knows that Mojo Jojo is a bad guy, and...
Yeah, exactly.
But this is actually like their origin story, which is really cool.
Which is really cool.
I gotta actually get my notes out now. Whoop.
My notes in front of me.
So the very beginning has the narrator, which the narrator is in every episode of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yes.
And he talks about how the city of Townsville, which is the setting,
yes,
just sucks dick. There's crime all the time, and there's actually kind of a little...
It kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks.
He's like a little... he's almost sad about it at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It sucks, but there's no, like, big crime going on. There's no, like, monsters destroying the town or anything. It's just robberies. There's just small crimes happening all the time.
Yeah, basically.
They emphasize this by Utonium getting beat up by the Gangrene Gang. And Fuzzy Lumpkins robbing a convenience store.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so it could suck, but that just means the police force needs to kind of, stop sucking.
Yeah, exists.
Yeah, like when there's a donut shop called Do Not, like, fuck, what it was. It was kind of clever. It was like Do Nothing.
Really?
Yeah, it was like Do Not Thing. And there's a bunch of cops sitting in there, and it's like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
The cops suck in this town, I guess.
It seems the movie is creating a allegory for life, where the cops in real life don't actually accomplish anything close to justice. But no, I'm sure that has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, the way they spelt it was just two words. It's do not and then thing.
Okay, do not thing.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of cops just chilling inside of it. It's like, oh, okay. Well, at least they're not killing any black people in this.
Yeah, seriously.
Too soon? Too soon.
It's never too soon.
But, yeah, all right. So, do you want to kind of give a little... Well, do you want to start with your notes?
Yeah, my first note here is that it starts pretty epically. Like, it really sets the stage with the narrator and, like... Well, let me just preface by saying that a lot of this movie, as I'm watching it, it's getting me... Not necessarily, I mean, emotionally, but not like... I'm not bawling or anything, but it's like I'm getting this overwhelming feeling of nostalgia as it's going, because it's like, I remember this, I remember that. Like, even the little dog that they're saving, I remember the talking dog episode. I'm just like, so it's all like full of nostalgia. So at the very beginning, I'm like instantly, same thing with Dexter's Lab, I'm instantly in it because it's bringing me back, So it starts all epically. You get to see glimpses of these villains that become staple villains of the Powerpuff Girls, and to be honest, as it's starting, it's like the intro to the normal show, but it's just so much more focused. Because Professor Utonium actually goes and buys the ingredients, and he's making them and all that, and then it's like just so much more focused. And I really enjoyed that, of course.
So,
well, that's my first note. My next note is post Powerpuff Girls creation. So.
Oh, okay. So. They're kind of describing how the city of Townsville sucks, and Professor Utonium is shopping, and he's checking out, and you get to see a cameo of Fuzzy Lumpkins, which Fuzzy Lumpkins is the very first Powerpuff Girls villain that has ever existed.
Really, he was in the first episode?
He was in the very first episode.
Nice.
And then they showed the Gangrene Gang, which I guess makes sense. I mean, they're kind of intimidating, especially in this movie. They look rather scary.
Yeah, plus there's like 5 of them, and one of them is batshit crazy.
Goober.
I don't remember his name.
Is he the one that, like, they looked over and they saw an exit, and then he jumps down and, like...
Yeah. He's like, oh, my God.
Okay, so his name was
Goober.
Goober.
Hit in the face with a fucking trash can lid.
They're actually funny. Their names are Ace, Snake, Arturo, Big Billy, and Goober.
Huh.
And Big Billy is a Cyclops.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just throwing that out there, little tidbits.
That's weird, but okay.
I brought that up because there's an episode where the Gangrene Gang is forced to go to the Powerpuff Girls school, and they do show and tell, and they're like, you know, tell us something about yourself, and they all say something, and Billy's like, he lifts up his hair because his hair is covering his face, and he's just got one blue eye. It's like, oh, you're a Cyclops.
You're a Cyclops, okay. So, anyway.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So the professor goes back to, you know, his lab, and he's got a chimp in a diaper that's going around wrecking everything named Jojo.
Yeah, what a dick chimp. And he just doesn't care. He's had a hard day. He doesn't care.
Yeah. And so then he makes, you know, he's making them sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Which, when he does the everything nice, it's kind of weird, because it's like, it's not like a liquid. It's just slowly falling small stuff.
It's like hearts and smiles and shit.
Yeah, where the fuck did he get these hearts and smiles?
I don't know. Where did he harness the power of rainbows?
Really?
Well, his name is Professor Utonium.
So you have to assume he's pretty smart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, through an accident, I'm trying to remember, did Jojo cause the accident?
Yeah, Jojo pushed him in the back.
Yeah, and he falls and he hits because he's stirring the mixture, the concoction, right underneath the chemical X for whatever reason. And so he hits the thing and it shatters. None of the glass goes in, it deforms them, but all of the liquid goes in and then it explodes and they're just there. And he's like, holy fuck.
Well, right before that, what happens is when he pours the liquid in, well, when it gets poured in, he slowly backs away from it like he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But Jojo actually runs up right up to the thing to, like, look inside of it. And
then it explodes on him.
And that actually is, I'm kind of glad they brought that up because in the intro, he's like, he accidentally added chemical X. And you see him, like, stirring, and then he just apparently stirred hard enough to ram into the fucking...
oh, shit! And then he just smashes it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, glass is glass, but if it's a beaker, you imagine it's,
like,
thick.
Yeah, usually it's pretty thick. Like, it's
so
fairly
like,
easy to break glass if you're, like, throwing it or dropping it. But when you actually hit glass with something, you got to hit it pretty hard, usually.
Right. It makes sense that a monkey hits him, though, because he jerks forward. But
exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, they appear, and the one thing that got me, though, is they're very accepting of the fact that they now exist.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm the professor, Professor Utonium. And,
like, okay.
What are your guys' he's like, what are your guys' names? We're like, I don't know, you created us.
Yeah, maybe.
And they're just like, you should name us. Like, they're just accepting that two of us were condiments, not condiments. We were cooking ingredients that you gave life to.
Yeah.
The other one is the embodiment of good things that you gave life to.
Yeah. I think they're all part sugar, spice, and everything nice. Each one just happens to get a greater dose of the others. But I thought this part was really cool because you get to see the origin of their names, you know? And the professor goes up and he's like, well, you were so direct and forward to me and you came out to me or whatever, so I'm going to call you Blossom. And then Bubbles starts laughing. He's like, you're so cute and bubbly, so you're my little Bubbles. And then he looks over at Buttercup and he's like, you can be Buttercup because it starts with B.
And it's so sad, too, because Buttercup's, like, all happy, like, excited, like, what's my name going to be? And he's like, you're Buttercup because fuck
she gets mad. The source of her anger from here on.
What a dick.
Mm-hmm. And it's, like, really, like, this is a really touching moment that gave me some emotions of nostalgia. because they're just like, yeah, you know, it's like touching, and they call him dad and give him a kiss and stuff, and it's like, oh.
And because Professor Utonium, he even says, like, he's always wanted kids to mold them. And
well, yeah, he says his plan was to make a little girl so he can raise her to learn learn the difference between right and wrong and good and evil, and then she can, at some point, affect the city.
Yeah. And so he leaves because it's your birthday, I got to get you gifts. And
he just leaves them.
Yeah, and then there's a little short joke where it's kind of, he's on his way back. Note to self, don't leave little girls by themselves.
Yeah. Well, right before that, you see a glimpse of Mojo, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mojo's in the shadows.
Yeah.
And he, like, sees this, and then he just kind of
slinks
disappears.
away.
Again, a bit of a dick on Utonium's part, because...
He just, like, forgot he had this monkey.
Well, granted, he just suddenly made into existence 3 girls, but... You wouldn't think at some point he'd be like, hey, where did my monkey go?
Where did JoJo go?
Like, he doesn't care at all throughout the whole movie. So you can see, I'm going to bring that up later, but I think that plays an important part in Mojo Jojo's character.
Yeah. And so the opening kind of continues, because I still consider this all like the opening of the movie.
Okay.
So it just kind of continues with the girls and the professor just bonding over all these things. They're just having fun. They, like, paint the room, and it's a really great scene as far as this bonding goes, because Professor Utonium, he's got, pink, and he's in their room, and he's like, all right, do what I do, and he, like, goes to put a mark on the wall, and they just completely cover the entire room in paint in, like, a second, and then he, like, pulls himself off the wall, and it, does the cartoon thing where it's got the outline. He's like, I think you missed a spot, and then he, like, paints his face, and they all start laughing. It's like, oh,
It's because Utonium is such a cool guy. Like, it's weird.
He's so nice.
He's super nice to the Powerpuff Girls, but to his monkey, he's a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're just doing these things. He's like, we got to get your furniture up here. Oh, what I missed?
You missed that. So when he's walking down the stairs, he falls, and they catch him, and then he realizes, oh shit, they can fly.
They can fly.
And then, as they're doing this montage of, bonding, you get to kind of see more of their powers, like heat vision.
He's like, we need a window right about here. I'll call a contractor. And then they just laser the 3 holes, the iconic 3 holes. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, it was very nostalgic for me, and it was quite touching. And it gave me the feels, man.
The feels.
So then the intro kind of ends after this little bonding point, because he's going to take them to school or whatever. Like, which he puts them to bed. They go, he finds them asleep. It's just like, oh, they're all tuckered out and stuff. It's like a really touching scene.
There's actually another moment that you might have missed. So when they're thanking Professor Utonium for the stuff that they give him, Bubbles is holding Octi.
Yes,
favorite,
I'm going to love this forever. And she's got the little octopus.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was like, hey, that's when she got off.
I didn't write it down, but I did notice that.
Okay. But yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the intro, as you said.
Yeah, the opening.
Yeah. So then they decide to go to school, and that was another weird thing. So those kids are probably only a couple weeks old, maybe.
Yeah.
And he decides they're about kindergarten age.
Mm-hmm. So let's take these super-powered creations that could be highly unstable, that we actually don't know anything about, and let's go put them with, 20 other kids in a small room.
Right, and these kids just apparently know, like, how to read.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, like, Bubbles is reading books. Who taught her to read?
Yeah. It's because they're smart.
I guess. They're just super smart.
And everyone
they go
loves them at school.
And that's something that first, caught me weird. Their design is so different compared to everybody else.
They've got no fingers. They've got giant bug eyes.
The eyes got me, because if you notice everybody else's eyes, they're usually just, not dots, but they're almost like ovals.
Yeah.
But the Powerpuff Girls have, pupils and irises
and their eyes are gigantic, like the size of their fucking head.
Yeah, man. It was weird.
And they have nubs. They have no fingers or toes.
Yeah, pretty
Just
much.
got these rounded nubs at the end of their arms. It's kind of weird.
now that I think about it, if you really think about it, they start kindergarten in this movie, and they're in kindergarten the entire length of the show.
Damn.
So that means the entire length of the show happens within 1 year.
Yep.
Damn.
Yep, that's pretty crazy.
That's a lot of shit. But you get introduced to a couple of the kids. Like, the kids in their classes don't normally play like a huge role, but
there were a few. Like, I saw Mitch, and I was like, "Hey, there's that kid." And then I saw the little
Mitch.
like
He has that weird, like, raspy-esque voice.
Yeah. My name's Mitch, or whatever, and he's got the black.
Yeah.
And then there's the little like dirty kid. Like, remember the one where he has cooties?
I do remember the dirty kid.
Like, so I was like looking at all the little kids, and I was like, oh well, there's Miss Keene. I remember her, and then looking at the kids, like, I remember that one. I remember that one. Like, it's pretty cool.
And Professor Utonium's like, "Bye, girls,"
Bye.
He's even worried too, like, they're special, like really special.
Yeah.
And Miss Keene's like, "Oh, every parent says that. Get the fuck out of here."
Get out of here. It's okay.
And then he comes back and he's like, worried that some shit went down, which makes you wonder, if you were so worried about it, why didn't you tell them, hey, don't use your powers?
Yeah, that's true. And he shows
That's
up
all
and the
he would have
classroom's
to
all
say.
like fucked up. He's like, "Oh shit, what happened here?" She's like, "It's okay. You get 20 fucking kindergartners in a room at one time and shit goes down, so don't
Dude,
worry."
if I had 20 kids fuck up a room like that, I'd be like, you need to fucking stop.
All of you kids need to clean this shit up right now.
Like, it wasn't just, like, messy papers. Like, tables and desks were turned over.
And, yeah, the place is pretty destroyed. Although, not nearly as destroyed as it probably could be.
Yeah, really, hint, hint.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So, he looks outside, and they're playing, like, hopscotch, I think.
Yep.
And,
well,
then
at first he's like, they didn't do anything weird? No, they were perfect. Okay.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then Mitch, like, they start to play tag, and the girls are like, what the fuck is tag?
Are we infected?
Yeah.
Tags, bubbles.
And then Mitch tries to explain it to him in a dickish kind of way.
Yeah. Because that's his character. He's a dick.
And then they tag Buttercup, and and it just escalates
like,
from there.
So crazy.
Like, the whole next couple of minutes is just this intense superhero version of tag.
Yeah. It's like
they're just destroying the city.
It's like if Superman and Martian Manhunter and the Flash were playing tag. And they had no recourse for the entire city.
Yeah. Imagine.
And it's really cool how it starts, because it starts, if you remember, they're just like running, and then they start to get a little bit faster, and then a little bit faster, and then it starts picking up, and then they like Buttercup starts running, and it's like, phew, and then fire comes up behind her, and they start like carving a path in the fucking ground, and they fly and break the building and stuff. Yeah, she pushes her with
Bubbles, and then Bubbles tries to stop, and she
goes flying. She like goes flying through the classroom, I thought.
I know they destroy the classroom at one point.
And so then they're flying around the city, having a blast playing tag, like going across the buildings and like carving like
there's a great scene.
Crevasses or whatever out of the buildings, and they go into the subway and they break shit and they're blowing holes in buildings and like.
There's a great scene when the girls leave the school and all the kids are just like jaw dropped, just looking out like, what the fuck?
Yeah. My note here.
They were just gonna play tag, but with these deformed, bug-eyed,
creatures,
color-coded girls,
these freaks.
Yeah, they just accept them immediately, like,
which is good.
Which is good, but I don't think kids are normally like that.
No.
I think they're kind of dicks.
Yeah, kids are assholes.
And then,
my note
the
here
girls
is super game of tag, mass destruction, so much damage, and then in caps, these gods, because they're essentially gods.
Pretty much.
Like, they're casually city busting while playing tag.
There's a scene that I wondered if there was some kind of running joke, but so Professor Utonium tries to like get to them. He's in his car trying to get a hold of them, and every so often a red bouncing ball will hit his car.
Yeah, it's because as Blossom is flying and she's building up so much speed that it's like pulling cars and shit underneath her. You see the little red ball.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is up with that red? Because it happens twice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's up with that red
And
ball?
they actually pass by a shop that says it's like a ball shop or something like that. So I was expecting a whole bunch of red balls to
a
pop
whole
out.
bunch of
Yeah.
balls.
But it didn't happen. Although there is a gigantic, like, globe that rolls around. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So suffice it to say, bunch of shit gets destroyed. And you get to introduce to the mayor.
Well, hold on. Before that happens, you get to see, during the tag scene, you get to see glimpses of their powers as well. Like, they have super hearing, and Blossom looks up and she, like, zooms her vision in and she sees, a reflection on this thing, and, like, so you get to see a little more of their powers.
Yeah.
And
then you get introduced to the mayor.
Yes. It's like, oh my, oh my, oh my.
Oh no, oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, as he's walking.
And
Miss Bellum shows up. You
Bellum.
don't get to see her face because, that's the shtick.
And they when he says oh boy, Miss Bellum thinks, Bellum.
Yeah, Miss Bellum.
Miss Bellum is like, yeah, you tell him, sir. Sir, the place is getting destroyed. Where are you going? And he's going to this little pickle
cart.
stand.
Yeah, it was like Cucor, like Cucors or Sucors or whatever pickles.
Yeah.
And the guy had a little like bumpy pickle nose, and he talked in a typical accent, and it was great.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
And
boy,
then,
my pickles, and he pulls the pickle out, and he's like, oh my god, he's like, loves the pickle, and he doesn't ever get to
He
eat
loves
it.
those pickles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Powerpuff Girls
and you
show
can
up,
see
like,
like they're
blow
setting it
the
up.
fucking- You go, sorry.
You can see that they're setting it up that the girls are going to ram into it. Like
Mm-hmm.
the scenes are building up to that point. It's not just like, oh man, it's destroyed. No, they ram all three of them into it.
Yep, and then they sit there and they laugh.
Yeah.
In the destruction.
And that's actually going to play a major part because the mayor is a kind of a doofus,
Yeah,
but he's a cool guy. He would probably have accepted the girls
Oh, yeah.
had they not destroyed his pickle cart.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only reason he's angry is the pickle cart.
Yeah. And
He's even giving a speech later where he's like, these monstrous pickle destroyers.
yeah. And so Professor Utonium finally gets a hold of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, maybe you shouldn't use your powers in public anymore, which you should have done in the first place. But maybe you shouldn't do this because people are getting scared and angry at things they don't understand.
Mm-hmm. You guys are special, and you just need to give them time for them to see that you're special.
Exactly.
And it's a little
And-
sad, but, it's still good.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So he takes them to school the next day.
There are prepubescent gods running around.
Yeah.
You got to kind of accept that.
Exactly.
And
So he takes him to school the next day, and the school is all fucked up, and there's all these, like, construction people around, like, fixing the hole in the ceiling and in the wall, and, like, the lights are broken, and the water's leaking, and, like, everything's just trash.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, girls, we didn't think you were going to come today.
and it's funny because she keeps saying about how shitty it now is.
Yeah.
Like,
You can't
no
have
recess
recess.
because of construction.
Yeah. And there's no
No,
snacks because the refrigerator's broken. We don't get lights.
No running water.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, you really fucked up that school.
Yeah. And it's really sad, and everyone, like, hates him, moved there.
Yeah, like immediately. Like kids are dicks to them, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
they just fucked everything up. But
they turned on him so fucking fast.
yes.
Like none of them were like, dude, that was the coolest shit I've ever seen. No, they all immediately hate him.
Yep. Oh, and there was a funny joke there. They're sitting there, like, reciting the ABCs, and a board falls from the ceiling and breaks on their heads. And the fucking construction guy is like, you broke my board! Like, he was just, like, pissed at them. It was really funny.
They're doing the ABCs and they get up to F
Oh, yeah.
for failure.
For failure.
And then Utonium actually is like on his way to go pick him up. Like he's leaving the
he's
house.
about to leave the house.
And then a whole bunch of people are there, and they're like, "Yeah, we're
Cameras
gonna
and
arrest
cops and yeah, Miss Bellum.
because you're conspiring with these little girls."
So they literally arrest him. They
And,
arrest his ass.
And it's sad because he keeps saying like, "Look, I got to get to my girls. They don't know how to get home from here,
Yeah, what if
and they're
they-
not going to use their powers."
Exactly. It's a
And
little
so they're just
touching.
sitting
It's it's another one of those. See, one of the things that's nice about this movie and the Powerpuff Girls in general is that like you can really see Professor Utonium loves them like daughters.
He really does.
It's pretty.
Well, it's pretty. And so the girls are just sitting there in front of the school waiting and waiting and waiting, and they think that that Utonium hates them now.
Just like everyone else.
And so they try to make their way home walking.
Yeah, because Buttercup is like, we're just going to fucking fly. Blossom's like, we can't do that. We can't use our powers. Come on. Start walking. Like, fuck.
And there's this somber scene where they're walking through the destruction that they have wrought onto the city.
Yeah, and things are fucked up.
Yeah. And
then it has this little montage of like various TV screens of all these different like mock news channels.
Yeah. And they're all just talking about the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
Everybody's basically talking shit about them.
Yeah, and they even call them freaks.
They're
freaks. Yeah, they are freaks, aren't they?
Yeah, and they pan out, and then they show the three girls watching this.
Yeah, they're like outside a TV store, that whole cliche, looking in at all the monitors, all the TVs. And it's really sad. They're just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then they get lost. And then they come across the Gangrene Gang.
They end up actually at the grocery store from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And, because it's raining. That's right. They're trying to find somewhere to get out of the rain.
Yeah.
And they run across the Gangrene Gang, which
I guess they're
the
green.
movie makes them look so scary. They're very intimidating.
Yeah.
Even Arturo, he's got like a crazy eye. He's a little one.
The little one. I remember him.
He's got
the crazy eye. You don't want to mess with.
And so they're scared, even though
they're gods.
They're gods,
but they've never thought of using their powers to fight.
At this point, they really have only used their powers to fly and to play around. They really didn't.
Yeah, they don't know their capabilities and shit like that.
Exactly. So they get saved.
Plus, they're little girls, so of course they're going to be afraid of these 5 intimidating men when they're alone somewhere they don't know where they're at in the fucking rain.
Well, a couple of mutated men, one of which is a Cyclops and the other is
a snake man.
A snake.
One of them's deranged. Yeah.
And so they get saved by a trash can lid.
I actually have it right here. Saved, but it's in quotation marks because they're not actually saved because what the fuck are the Gangrene Gang going to even do to them?
Yeah.
Later on, they go into lava unscathed. They go and they survive in the vacuum of space.
Real question is, what was the Gangrene Gang going to do to them?
Yeah, seriously. The implications.
Yeah, really.
Rape.
Were they going to beat them up? Were they going to mug them? Like girls, what the fuck are you going to mug them for? Give me a bow.
Rape. Lots of rape. They're going to sell them into child trafficking.
That's
dark.
And in reality, they get fucked up by the Powerpuff Girls because they're gods.
Yeah, exactly. So a trash can lid flies in and Captain America bounces and hits all of them in a perfect line.
Well, actually, it's really cool because it looks like the small one's going to get hit in the face, but actually goes around him and hits him in the back.
Yeah, hits the wall behind him.
And then they see a silhouette of a figure, and they try to run up and want to say thank you. And there's this scene where, because it turns out to be JoJo.
Well, yeah, JoJo.
And, there's a sad scene where JoJo's really connecting with him.
He's giving them a speech about them being outcasts, not about them being outcasts, about how they couldn't understand what it's like to be outcast and to be judged as different and all this.
And, for most of that speech, you think JoJo's not really a bad guy. He's just,
misunderstood.
But then
really connecting with him.
But then there's a scene where he's got his back to them and he's got this evil look in his eyes and smile, and you're like, yeah, that's right. They're going to only make him a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of sad about when I saw that scene. I'm like,
he's evil. I actually wrote down Mojo is so delightfully evil.
Yeah.
But that's just because I like Mojo, and I just love that he's just so bad all the time, every time.
Mojo,
such a fucking dick.
He is a dick.
So he, talks to them about how he's got these ideas for this machine that will make everything better. It's the, make everything better machine or something.
Yeah, and he
needs their help.
He tricks them by just kind of convincing them very fastly, yeah, this was our idea. We're going to make the world better and like us.
Well, he appeals to the fact that they're little girls. He appeals to their, purity and good nature.
But if you remember when they get to the top of the volcano, he's talking very fast to them.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And, so yeah, they go on this kind of excursion where they help him, which is kind of cool when they help him build what would become his
his lair.
His lair.
They
which
go
is
into
really
the
funny.
volcano because there's a volcano in the middle of fucking Townsville for whatever reason.
Which is funny. Why would you pick first off, why would you pick a lair that's in the middle of the city where everybody knows where you're at?
Just because he wants to take over.
I guess.
But they go into the lava and they put something under there, and then they go into the tundra and fucking unearth a meteorite, and they do all this crazy stuff.
They melt it, and that's the metal.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go underwater, get a submarine, and then bust it like a piñata and get all the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And which when they go in the volcano, they don't put suits on or anything. They just go right in.
Yeah, because they can survive lava because they're
And
fucking
so can
gods. Yeah, and their clothes. But something tells me
granted,
naked little girls would not be.
You know what? Yeah, they're not going to show naked little girls coming out of a volcano, but they probably should have said something. Otherwise, we just think that their clothes are about as indestructible as they are.
Yeah. Or you just accept that it's a fucking cartoon.
Well, keep in mind, they were birthed with clothes on.
That's true.
So maybe their clothes are
a part of them. It's like Letha in the Seventh House of K or whatever.
Oh, the fucking Spawn thing?
The cape, yeah.
The cape thing from Spawn? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go later, in a later scene, they actually show their closets, and they have bunches of different of the same.
What are we gonna wear? They have the exact same outfit 8 times a piece.
So does JoJo.
And so does JoJo, yeah.
Fuck, I lost my train of... Okay, so after they do this whole montage of building his base, they go to the zoo.
Hold on, they keep going to Mojo, and they're like, did we do good? You did very good.
Yeah, I don't remember them constantly going up to
They did it 2 or 3 times.
Huh.
Yeah. It's like him affirming to them that they're doing the right thing. So they keep continuing. And then as a reward, he takes them to the zoo.
And you can tell that the girls are really interested in all the animals, but Mojo just doesn't care.
Yeah, he's there for a reason. Part of his...
He's there for a reason. And then they go to the primate plaza.
Plan.
And he's acting like he's going to take a picture, and then he tells them to scoot, and then he takes a picture of, the monkey's butt, and then the monkey falls.
No, it screams. And that's what keeps happening. They keep, every various monkey and ape he takes pictures of, they look at the camera and they scream.
Except for the gorilla.
Yeah, except for the gorilla. Because he doesn't give a shit.
And then, so you realize, oh, so something's going on. And when they takes a picture of the gorilla, when he supposedly takes a picture of the gorilla, you see that what it is some kind of tracking device or some kind of beeping small thing, which ends up being a teleporter.
Yeah, it teleports them.
Which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, he has this fucking technology.
And then the girls need Chemical X, and they steal Chemical X. It's the last thing that they steal.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know if it's stealing.
Well, they don't steal the other stuff. The meat.
No.
So if anything, this is the only thing they steal, if you could consider it stealing.
And then they go back, and they're about to tell Professor, look at the good we're about to do. And Professor gets thrown into his house with handcuffs on.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really weird to me, because if they're letting him go, why didn't they let him go at the police station?
Yeah, why is he still restrained and everything?
Yeah, nitpick, but yeah.
It's a cartoon, that's why.
And then they melt his handcuffs off, and that somehow doesn't hurt him at all.
Of course not.
Again, another nitpick. But, and he's all sad. Here's how how amazing Utonium is. He's so distraught over the fact that he couldn't get to the girls after class.
Yeah, he was just bombarded with lawyers and policemen and the news and all this shit about the fucking shit that they caused. He was arrested, and when he finally sees them, he has to apologize to them about, the fact that he wasn't there for them.
Yeah, because he loves his girls.
Yeah, it's touching.
And then they just kept saying, we did something really, really good. And as this is happening, because he puts him to bed, as this is happening, the monkeys, the primates, are getting teleported into JoJo's place. And they're getting doused in Chemical X. And you see their skin starts to turn green, and their hair, their brains
pop out.
Yeah, and it's oh, he's turning them into him.
Exactly.
And, there's this kind of cool montage. I keep using the word montage.
But there's a lot of montages in this movie.
There is, but in the next scene, it's like I can't wait. Like Mojo is mimicking the girls almost like perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, even though one is good, one is bad, and they're flying. They go to fly Professor Utonium to the city, and as this is happening, Mojo is. I'm being inconsistent with that. His name is Jojo at this point. He becomes Mojo. So if you hear us say Mojo and then back to Jojo, he becomes Mojo.
Yeah, his name is Jojo, but he becomes Mojo Jojo.
Yeah.
He names himself Mojo Jojo, essentially.
Yeah. But he's unleashing all of these primates onto the sea, which are a lot. There are a lot.
Yeah, I actually have... oh, wait, hold on. I totally missed one of my notes. Right before this part, when they're at the zoo still, Bubbles, finds a rattle that the baby dropped and gives it to a chick. And the chick is a fucking bitch to her about it.
Yeah, she sneers at her.
Yeah, I wrote bitch at zoo.
Again, I brought this up in some other show, but okay, I get it. You don't like her, but she is a god.
And she's a little girl.
You should probably show some kind of respect to the being that could destroy you.
And everything around you. And then the next one right after that is pertaining to the Mojo thing. Awesome evil ape army sequence and epilepsy.
When they're jumping out of the base or just later?
That's right before that, when they're actually being injected and all that, and they're changing. That was all really cool. And then there was a lot of screen flashing, so I was like, and epilepsy.
Yeah, and epilepsy.
So, and then now we get to the part where there's a lot of apes, and I put, apparently Mojo can clone as well.
Mojo can clone?
Yeah, well, because when he goes to the zoo, there's 12 fucking apes, and then a flood of them comes out of his lair. So...
Yeah, he does not capture that many.
Yeah.
At least we don't
So
see
apparently he can just clone them.
There's actually...
It's cartoon logic, but...
There is another nitpick I just thought of. So, why was Mojo the only ape like him in the whole army?
Yeah, all the other ones are other... apes. He's the only one that was like a monkey.
Yeah. Well, granted, the gorilla was another one that you only see one gorilla.
Yeah. And then the proboscis monkey.
Is that the...
it's the one with the nose.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's all you have to say. And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I got you. So, yeah, the city's getting basically run amok with all these... Yeah, with all these super intelligent...
And as they're talking, Professor Utonium is taking them to the town or whatever. And
well, they're taking him to the town because they're flying his ass.
Yeah. And as that's happening, simultaneously, because it's cutting between the two, is where the apes, the super apes now, are fucking taking everybody over.
And there's actually a really good line where he's like, I want to thank all the little people. And then as soon as, after he says that, they fly in, and he's like, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, it's got a lot of charisma in that.
And then all the people, while getting fucked up, by the way.
You've forsaken us!
They're forsaken us! I knew we couldn't trust them!
Yeah. And
you would be thinking, instead of that, they'd be saying, ah!
Yeah, oh no, fuck! There's a gorilla fisting me! Seriously. It's pretty funny. And then so the girls, leave or whatever, they get sad.
Oh, no, you know what happens is, they drop Professor Utonium, and they say, we didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Lie to us. And he's like,
you have to believe us,
you still
Professor.
believe in us, don't you, Professor? And he's like, I don't know who to believe anymore. And it just shatters them.
Yeah, they're like, oh, and they fly away.
And they land on some asteroid.
And hold on, Mojo Jojo, this is the part where he finally, declares himself. He's like, Hobo Jojo is no more. From here forward is Mojo Jojo. He does that whole shtick.
Yeah.
Hobo Jojo is no more.
Yeah, because he was hobo.
Yeah.
He was Hobo Jojo.
So he becomes Mojo Jojo, and, and then he addresses the apes, and he's like, I will rule all
before we get to that.
kind.
Before we get to that.
Okay.
Which is my favorite part. Let's talk about the Powerpuff Girls, what they do.
But I thought that all the shit that happened right before.
Yeah.
Then they were on their little moon or asteroid.
Okay. But this is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, with all the various apes.
So Mojo's like, my very first plan is a success, and I win, and I will be, the king of the planet of the apes. And then all the noise stops.
Yes.
And all the apes are like, wait, what?
There's this one that pops up, and he's like, you're going to be the king? Ooh, 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 or whatever. And he's like, no, I'm going to be the fucking king. I, Mojo Kanjo, or whatever, will be the king. And then there's, like, Slammo Damo Jojo or some shit, and then Crash Crash. And they have all these, like, plays on the name in weird ways, and there's all these different variations. There's ones that are, there's like a barrel filled with monkeys, and then gorilla, and he gets these big fists, and like...
There's Cha-Ching Cha-Ching.
Cha-Ching Cha-Ching.
There's...
With the cymbals.
Baboon
His
Kaboom.
whole thing is he's gonna bang the cymbals and cause the sound waves to break shit.
Yeah, there's Baboon Kaboom.
Which, he has a giant robot that shits bombs that he throws.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then
Which
there's
is awesome.
the Go-Go Patrol. I don't remember which one that one is.
I think that might be the barrel monkeys.
Oh, okay. There's Ha-Cha-Cha-Cha. We know which one that one is.
Which one is that one?
The one with the bananas.
Oh yeah, the big nose, the proboscis.
Yeah, because get it? Ha-Cha-Cha-Cha.
Yeah, yep, makes sense.
There's Hadawada, or Hodawada. No, Hadawada. Do you remember Hadawada?
Nope. Oh yeah, he was the one in the boiling water or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Killadrilla.
With the drill, of course.
Yep. There's Blah 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 Blah.
Oh yeah, he couldn't come up with an idea, so he whips up like tomatoes in a bowl and makes a fucking tornado. Or,
yeah,
excuse
like
me,
with like a
tornado.
What is that fucking thing he had in his hand?
An egg beater.
The egg beater. He somehow made a tomato tornado.
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 And there's actually a joke about that. Tormato. No, it's a tornado.
And then he kicks him.
Yeah, because, tomato, whatever.
There's the do-dot-do-dot-doo-doos.
Are those the ones that spit on everybody?
Yeah.
There's ones that just fly around and just spit on everybody.
Yeah, like dicks. There's Rocco Sacco.
Yeah, that's the gorilla with the big-ass robot
gorilla.
fists.
There's Ojo Tango. That's the orangutan.
Yeah, Ojo Tango.
And by the way, every time one of them introduces himself, Mojo has to say something. So, like, Ojo Tango. I'm Ojo Tango. And he's like, not Ojo, Mojo.
Yeah, exactly. And it just keeps going
Pappy.
between them all as they individually are talking about how they're going to take over.
There's Pappy Wappy.
Pappy Wappy, is he an old...
Wait a minute. Is that really D. Bradley Baker? So D. Bradley Baker did the voices for a bunch of the fucking monkeys.
Primates.
And Phil Lamar did a couple too.
Nice. Badass.
Yeah. But anyway, there's Pappy Wappy, which is the old one, who just like smacks an old guy, if you remember. That's all he does. There's Tansa Muncha. I don't remember that one.
Tansa Muncha, yeah. That one's not.
Rolla Ova, which is the fat one that's rolling.
Yeah. Roll up.
Wacko Smacko.
I don't know.
And then the last one's a whole lot of monkeys.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get introduced, and it's so cool because they're all like gimmicky and.
They all have these devices that cause carnage and shit, and they're all fighting each other in a way.
Yeah, because they all want to be the leader.
Yeah, it's just great.
Like, no, I'm the. So.
It's a great scene. So then while that's all happening, it goes up to like the moon or like an asteroid or just something up in space that has it's got no description to it. It's just a gray rock.
Yep.
And they're like,
they're all upset because.
And the color scheme actually changes. They all become gray, like it's all black and white and gray, except their eyes. Yeah, their eyes.
The eyes are vibrant.
Yes.
But yeah, they're all upset because they're upset.
Who wouldn't be at this point?
Yeah, really. And I think what eventually gets them to come back, because they're just like, we're just going to stay here for the rest of our lives. Bubbles, who apparently has better hearing.
Well, hold on. Right before that happens, Blossom and Buttercup are fighting each other because they're like, it's your fault. It's my fucking fault. You're an asshole.
Yeah, I guess I didn't include it because...
It's not that important.
Yeah, they fight, but it's not like a cool fight. They just kind of roll around on the ground.
But while they're fighting, Bubbles is crying, and then she's like, did you hear that?
And they're like, no. And like, Blossom, what should we do? And she just doesn't say anything. And then
they all start
I'm trying
listening.
to think.
And they're like,
but I'm trying to. What gets him back is Professor Utonium is in danger, but I'm trying to remember.
Mojo like starts strangling him or something.
Oh, and then they start coming down. They're on their way to go get him, and then they're like, all these people. They see all these people in danger, so they stop to try to help it.
Yeah, there's
Buttercup is just constantly trying to save this dog.
Everywhere she puts the dog, like more danger happens.
Yeah,
you stay right here in the middle of the road, and then the fucking giant barrel's coming at him. He's like, "Ah, fuck!" So he gets him, puts him over here, and now stay right here. And then the glass above him shatters. He's like, "Ah, fuck!"
And then she puts him down, and then the gorilla, who, by the way, his gimmick was that he put on these like robotic gloves,
his giant robot hands, basically.
And he's like somehow, because if you remember, the dog is in between his gloves, and the gloves look like they're flat against each other, but somehow that's not killing the dog.
Yeah, the dog just survived it.
And Buttercup's trying to get the dog out of the gloves, but
she's just getting frustrated.
And then she just punches him, and it doesn't kill him, I don't think.
He goes flying backwards into a building.
And then they're all like freaking out, like, whoa, what the shit?
Yeah, I actually have right here, Buttercup throws the first punch.
She does.
Buttercup shot first.
And then they do this scene where Buttercup is like looking around, like, she's looking at her fist, or her nubs. Nubs. And then she looks down at the dog that is now safe, who, for whatever reason, they decided to have the dog piss on the gloves.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait a minute, we can fuck people up.
We're awesome. What is this power?
Like, it just clicks. And then, Blossom goes after one of the robots, but which one was it? It wasn't the shitting bombs one.
It was the one with the treads.
Yeah, it was the one with the treads, and she fucks that thing up. By the way, she destroys the robot, and it explodes.
Behind her in this epic, like, fucking thing.
And it probably killed the monkey.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, monkeys are going to die.
Well, no, none of them actually die because it's a cartoon, but... I even wrote right here, great imagery, because throughout the fighting, there's all these, like, great shots where, like... They're flying, and there's like a fucking tidal wave of water coming behind them, and then, you know, the Blossom thing with the explosion behind her and stuff. There's a lot of these great little, like, these cool little scenes. The imagery's really cool.
Yes. And,
it's exciting.
It's exciting. And then,
Mojo takes the professor, because he's just
because he's like, I was afraid of this. You know, I was afraid that they would learn the true extent of their power or something. And, so they're just doing shit, and then Mojo douses himself in even more chemical.
Yeah, he goes back to his lair, and he just has more, even though he used all of it earlier.
Which, every time they use Chemical X, there always seems like a small bottle, but there's a fuck ton of it in there.
Yeah, it just multiplies.
And, like, shit, man. But yeah, he pours it on himself, which... We never know what Chemical X is. It's just some god chemical.
Yeah, it's just Chemical X.
And he becomes a giant monkey. He becomes probably King Kong size.
Yeah, I call him Colossus Mojo.
Colossus Mojo?
Yeah, he's gigantic. And instead of his normal, like, brain cap, he takes the top of the fucking, like, City Hall and puts that as a brain cap.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
So he's pretty big.
But his clothes grow a little bit as well. That's kind of weird.
Of course.
But, well, he could be naked, though. They just don't draw him a penis.
Yeah, that's true.
But they decided, nah, fuck it.
And Mojo, Colossus Mojo is showing that he's, like, pretty powerful. He's fighting them. But the girls are fucking gods. So, of course, they're going to win. So they're just beating the shit out of him. And they do this King Kong homage where he, like, climbs the building and everything, you know.
Now, here's
the shtick.
This actually shows, this scene really gives Mojo a 3 dimensions, because he's trying to convince them, like, hey, these people hate you.
Yeah.
And you're helping them. I'm the only person. I lied to you, yes. I lied to you.
But I was the only one who showed you, like, some amount of fucking... something besides the professor, of course.
Besides the professor.
I didn't ostracize you and outcast you and all that shit.
I mean, I backstabbed you, which, granted, you know...
Sucks.
But, you know, I never turned you away. I never hurt you really in any way other than lying.
And now you betray me. I remember him saying that, betray.
And now you want to portray me. And this is the part I have a problem with. So they break out of his hand, and they say, no, because of you, we have to protect them. You're a monster.
Yeah.
And it's like, why didn't you try to convince him to join your side? Be like, why don't you try to be good, Mojo? I mean,
why do you need
we're
to rule?
good. Why do you have to rule? But no, we're just going to fuck you up. We're not going to try to understand
They're little
you
girls, damn it. They don't have the foresight.
They're gods, but they're children.
Yes. And so, of course, they beat him. He falls from the tower. And, Professor Utonium shows up, and he's like, hey, I fucking made an antidote, X. It'll stop all the powers. And then before he gets crushed, they save him. He drops the vial. It's like a whole beak. No, it's not a beaker. It's a potion. It's a typical cartoon potion or whatever. And then it shatters, and he falls in it. And there's a lot more in there than would be in that little fucking thing, because it's like a whole pool around giant Colossus Mojo.
Yep.
And then he shrinks down to size. And he doesn't go back to a normal monkey. He shrinks back down to Mojo.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
And then there's a scene where the girls are, like, up to the pool, and they're like, we're just going to touch it, because we want to be normal little girls. And I remember thinking, you don't know that's what it's gonna do to you. You might die from that.
Mojo was alive and then got affected by the Chemical X. You are created because of it. So,
and not even that. He was alive. He got Chemical X, but then he got a super dose of Chemical X.
Yeah.
That's why it only dropped him probably down to normal. But you only have your normal dose of Chemical X.
So you're gonna cease to exist.
Probably.
You're just going to
dissolve. Of course, all the people show up somehow without the girls noticing.
They're like, no!
Yeah, they just decide, oh, yeah, you saved us.
And then the mayor's like, girls, would you? Oh. And then Miss Bellum walks up and he's like, girls, we're all fucking sorry. You destroyed our shit, so we feel like we're a little bit justified, but thank you for saving us.
Yeah, you saving our lives is worth the crap that
so would you save us? Would you, kind of, if we get you a phone and call you up, could you maybe come save the day?
And then they turn to Professor, and they're like, can we, Professor? As long as it's before your bedtime.
And thus the show is born.
Pretty much. Which is, if you don't know, there's a tagline from the Powerpuff Girls, which is, saving the world before bedtime.
Exactly. And it's also, you get to see the white phone with the red top with the red blinking nose.
Yeah.
Which is
very briefly.
And my note here is actually, the ending was a little rushed. Like, after the defeat of Mojo, it's just kind of like, okay, now we got to fucking end this thing. We got 10 minutes left of footage. Or something.
Really.
A time slot. So it felt a little rushed, but the very, very ending was, like, perfect, in my opinion. It hit me with the nostalgia again. Like, I didn't tear up or anything, but I was like, oh, man, this is great. This is the Powerpuff Girls. So it does that, like, the narrator comes in and he does the speech for the first time that starts every single show off. He's like, sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl. And as he's saying it, I'm fucking saying it out loud, like, so full of fucking nostalgia and emotion, like, oh, yeah, this is great. And so he says the speech, and then the show, like the movie ends, but it's essentially like the show has just begun. There we go.
Pretty much.
And the movie ends, and it's got this fucking, like, rock version of fighting crime, trying to save the world.
Yeah, it's like a Powerpuff Girls song that I've never heard before, and I'm like...
You haven't heard that song?
I've not heard
Fighting crime. It's in their credits. Fighting crime, trying to save the world. Here they come just in time. The Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff! Doon, 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 doon. It's like the end of every episode, like the credits or whatever. It's like a rock version of that.
Oh, okay.
So it hit me with nostalgia like crazy, because, like I said, like I can't remember a whole lot of random shit that happens in the show, but I did used to watch the show, and I remember enjoying it.
You know what's a sad fact about this movie?
What's up?
So, when it came out, as a result of its relatively low performance at the box office, it earned the title of lowest grossing animated film of 2002, becoming one of the worst grossing wide releases of 2002, including such flops as The Adventures of Pluto Nash and Treasure Planet.
Yeah, but come on. Treasure Planet wasn't bad.
I love
stupid.
Treasure Planet. Hey, fuck you.
People are just stupid. Come on, what?
Oh, I thought you said Treasure Planet was stupid.
No, Treasure Planet's fucking awesome. I love that movie. That's one of my most anticipated worlds for fucking Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Dude, I love Treasure Planet. The animation in that movie is so fucking good, too.
We didn't really do this for Dexter's Lab, but out of 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, what would you put this movie as?
See, that's such a really hard question, because if I put it out of all movies, it's like a 5 or a 4. Because it's really not even that great if you include it in all movies. If you include it in just, like, Cartoon Network movies, I haven't seen that many of them, but it's definitely up there. I
really only know of, like, offhand, a couple.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, so, as far as animated movies, it's probably a 7 or an 8. They're definitely much better, but it's good for what it is. I mean, it's really short. It's only like an hour and 6 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
It's slightly longer than Ego Trip.
I'm surprised it got a theatrical release, being only an hour long.
Exactly, being as short as it is. But I have written down here, mass nostalgia, loved it, and perfect. But I put perfect for the Dexter's Lab one as well. When I say perfect, I mean like it's like the perfect representation of a movie of the show. Like it had all of the spirit and fun and all that of the show.
Sorry, I just read this tidbit. So, during the production of this movie, Kathy Cavadini, Tara Strong, and E.G. Daly, the Powerpuff Girls, went on strike, protesting that they weren't being paid enough to be in the feature.
Really?
And the studio threatened to replace them, not just for the movie, but for the rest of the series. But obviously a deal was made, and so they did come back.
Yeah, exactly. That would have sucked if they couldn't have them. But damn, money grubbing? Yeah. Unless they were paid like not a lot at all, then I understand. But I mean, still.
So if you're gonna, I think I'd say as an animated movie goes, I think it's 7 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about right.
It's decent, but it's not like amazing or anything.
And because it's an origin story, it does actually work well with if you want to introduce someone to the Powerpuff Girls. That's kind of a good way.
Yeah. Although I have to say it loses a lot of its not charm, but a lot of the like goodness of it, at least for me, comes from the nostalgia. And if you're showing it to someone for the first time, you know, it's a lot different than if they've seen the show and they're coming to watch.
Yeah. The only thing that would, like, if you show someone the movie first, there's one episode that's gonna get kind of spoiled if you watch the Powerpuff Girls series, because in the series you don't know Mojo Jojo's backstory for a while, and then they introduce this idea that you're actually Professor's lab monkey.
Yeah.
See, that was kind of a big reveal in the show, but in the movie, since it came out afterwards, they're like, you already know this, so we're just going to show it to you.
Exactly.
Wait a minute, what the fuck? Hold on.
What?
However, it also gained controversy for some of its violence, which many felt was too extreme and highly inappropriate for a family-oriented film. Ebert and Roper gave it 2 thumbs down, criticizing that the movie was too violent.
What?
Huh.
The Powerpuff Girls movie.
Yeah.
It's too violent.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. There's mass destruction and they beat the shit out of a ton of monkeys and stuff. But it's like it's a fucking cartoon. Like it's so over the top and like it doesn't seem like that violent to me. I don't know. But I've seen like the movie Hostel and shit like that, where it's like horrible torture and fucking gruesome gore and shit like that. So it's like maybe I'm not the best person to approach with that, but it doesn't seem that violent to me.
Pretty much, man. Yeah. Other than that,
go play Doom, where enemies explode into like a fucking blood explosion.
Yeah, but you got to remember, it's probably, when they say it's violent, it's probably violent for like a PG or G movie.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
speaking of like gore and stuff, there's this one thing that always sticks out to me because it's just so funny to me. In the game Castlevania Symphony of the Night, there are these like zombies. They're called blood zombies, I think. When you kill them, like the top half of their body just erupts into a blood fountain. Like it just sprays blood, and it's pretty awesome. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, well, final notes is, I think if you're a Powerpuff Girls fan and you haven't seen this, which how have you not? But if you haven't, it's really good. It's kind of a cool little
Yeah, it was definitely
origin
enjoyable.
story. If you haven't seen Powerpuff Girls as just a standalone movie, I think it works pretty well because again, it's an origin story, and as long as you go in with the idea that this is a movie based off of a '90s TV or cartoon show,
Yeah.
you go in with those, understanding of that, then keep in mind this movie came out 13 years ago.
Damn.
Doesn't that make you feel a little
Yep.
old?
13 years ago. Oh, wow.
Yep. Makes you. It came out in July of 2002, so I was 11.
I was 11. I wouldn't turn 12 until later that year.
Yeah, man. We were 11 when this movie came out.
Are you sure you were 11?
Yeah, because
I'm older than you, and my birthday is later in the year, so I might have been 12.
Yeah, I think you were. No, wait. Because you were born in 90, right?
Yeah.
So you were going to turn 12 that year.
Yeah. So
yeah. And I was born in 91, and I had just turned 11. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I guess, I just turned 11 because my birthday's in June.
Okay, and then so I was 11, and I was going to be turning 12 that year.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. That's pretty cray-cray. Makes you feel old.
Makes you feel... Things to make you say, ugh. But I think, that's... Unless you have any closing notes for this...
Not for this movie, but we can just kind of wrap up the double feature and talk about the two movies and how we feel about them in relation to each other and whatnot.
All right, so as a whole, in my opinion, I would like to do... Personally, because I think we are going to do another double feature eventually.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Granted, this time around, I got to pick.
Yeah.
So he gets to pick the next double feature, two movies.
Yeah.
And if we decide after that point if we're going to do another one, then I would like to do another Cartoon Network one, because that's my bread and butter.
Johnny Quest and the Cyber Insects.
That's not a cartoon, damn it.
I don't care, but that is... I have not seen it since I was a kid, but I remember fucking loving that movie.
Oh,
loving it, and I haven't seen it in years, and I want to see it so bad. It's great. But hold on. Before we pick the next thing, or before we talk about that...
Okay.
After I'd watched Dexter's Lab, but before I watched Powerpuff Girls, I said to you, Chris, that I felt like I would enjoy Dexter's Lab more, but Powerpuff Girls is probably the better movie.
Yeah.
I still feel that way. Powerpuff Girls is probably way better of an actual movie than the Dexter's Lab one, because the Dexter's Lab one is just all over the place, and at least the Powerpuff Girls movie has a more focused plot. There's actually, whatever. But the Dexter's Lab one, Ego Trip, is so much more enjoyable because it's just so over the top and weird, and it's funny, and like... I feel like the Powerpuff Girls, when they were trying to go more for like a serious intro to the show.
Yeah.
And the Dexter's Lab one is just full of so much whimsy that I enjoyed it way fucking more. However, the action sequences in Powerpuff Girls blew Dexter's Lab out of the water.
Oh, yeah, but they had a budget of $11 million.
Yeah, plus it had a better art style and all that. It was more touched up and refined and all that.
Exactly.
But... So I liked Ego Trip more. What about you?
Fuck, that's a hard one. Like, they're both really good action. They're action-wise, are about the same for me.
Yeah.
Because if you level them out, because Powerpuff Girls had more time, more money.
Of course. Exactly.
I think I liked Dexter's Lab better as a kid, just because he was a boy and I was a boy. So
The time
kind of
travel was cool. Seeing
the time travel was cool.
bearded, awesome version of himself, and like maybe one day I'll be buff and bearded.
Well, actually, okay. Here's the thing about that. The funny thing about the cool Dexter and the old Dexter is they actually show up in the show.
Really?
Yeah, because there's an episode where Dexter's hero, one of his heroes, is this buff
black guy,
action black guy, yeah,
Action
and
Jackson.
then he envisions him.
And he punches a fucking My Little Pony, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember that.
And and Dexter envisions what he wants to be like, and it's what buff Dexter looks like.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then old Dexter shows up when he accidentally ages himself super old.
Yeah.
So it's only Wimpy Dexter that's never been seen before. So you're like, oh, well, there's Wimpy Dexter. But yeah, I like that. It's hard to compare the two. But if I had to go with one, I agree with what you said. Powerpuff Girls is probably a better movie, but I am more of a fan of Dexter's Lab.
Yeah, Ego Trip's just a more enjoyable film.
Yeah.
If you could call it film.
It's more of just like a special.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all right.
It was good. All right, so now that we've closed that out, now we can do our closing statements about double feature as a whole and whatever.
I think it was fun. I mean, it was cool to look back on these. Because for us, it wasn't just looking back on a movie we had seen a while. This was showing us a show we had seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dexter's Lab or the Powerpuff Girls in many, many moons.
And it was in huge nostalgia boner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I almost fucking cried watching the Powerpuff Girls movie.
So, dude,
it's getting me all emotional.
It was a cool trip, and like I said, Justin gets to pick the next one, and we're not going to say what it is because it could change.
Obviously.
Since it's going to be probably a little... It's not like the next thing we're going to do is another double feature.
Well, actually, the reason we did this, we've had the ideas for this, the plan for this for a long time, but it's always been kind of a backup. In case something goes awry, we've got the double feature to fall back on because it's very simple. We just go watch 2 movies. We don't have to watch a whole series.
These are actually really short movies anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And originally, we were going to be recording Skyrim, and so we were going to play that, and I was actually really excited about it. And my PlayStation 3, because I don't have it on the PC, I have it on PlayStation, it just fucking... It's not that it took a shit. The PlayStation works just fine. The disc tray won't accept discs anymore, because it's not one that I open. It's one that, it's like the typical, you stick it in and it sucks the disc up, and it won't take it anymore. So I'm going to have to, go in with a screwdriver and fucking open the thing and look around and fiddle with it and see what's wrong with it and all that. But until then, my PS3's out of commission, so I wasn't able to play Skyrim, which made me very sad because that game is fun and I was looking forward to it. So I just played Diablo 3 instead, which was awesome. But so we decided to do this because we didn't, we couldn't do Skyrim.
And if your favorite episode of ours is Skyrim, then
sorry,
it's going to be a little while.
It's going to be a little while, if at all. Like, we may not be able to continue it because I'm probably not going to buy it for PC. And if I did, I would have to redo my character and all that. It wouldn't be the same for me anyway.
Yeah. So unless you can get it fixed, this might be the end of our Skyrim edition. But
sadly,
if we do, we'll pick something else.
Yeah, we thought about substituting a different one. Because for us, Skyrim is kind of like an ongoing thing. So we had a plan for how we were going to, work on things. And Skyrim was always kind of we work on this main one, this secondary one, and then Skyrim. And then the main one, secondary one, and then something else. And we always, come back to Skyrim to punctuate in between. Because it's kind of an ongoing. So if that doesn't all work, then we got to just pick something else that we can insert there.
So you get to look forward to that.
And we did have an idea, but we're not going to reveal it here just in case we don't do it. But
yeah, we don't want to get your hopes up.
It was fun.
But like I said, Justin gets to pick the next
movies
double feature.
And you know what? I'm almost convinced now. Johnny Quest and the Cyber Insects. But we got to come up with a parallel. What's another movie that's similar?
I'm sure there's another Johnny Quest movie.
Okay, that I probably haven't seen.
Or just another. You can probably find something.
Another Cartoon Network show that has a movie.
Well, an old Cartoon Network show.
It doesn't even need to be old. It could just be an action-adventure show,
You know what sucks? I was actually going to do... My next one was going to be probably I wanted to do another Cartoon Network show. The only one I can think of is Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show.
Oh, that was a great one. And I'm
I'd
a
have
huge
to-
fan of Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Yeah, and I was thinking of that and something else, but I'd have to think of something else.
Fuck it, they're both Cartoon Network shows. One's old, one's new. I enjoyed both, so why don't we do Johnny Quest? And
If we can find
one is
Johnny
more
Quest,
serious and one is more lighthearted. So one is a very like a more realistic type of cartoon where it's not wacky toon physics, and one is all about the toon physics. So
it'd be cool to kind of compare.
exactly. So yeah, that's what we'll do next. I've decreed it. Johnny Quest and the Cyber Insects and Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show. On the next
All right.
double feature in 8 months or whenever the fuck we get around to doing it.
Yes. Well, do you have any closing remarks? Is that it for you?
That's it. I think
Okay.
we're good. I enjoyed this.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Because we enjoyed it.
Of course, if you made it this
We
far,
enjoy you
thank you for listening.
And if you liked us, like, subscribe, butt fucking comments.
But fucking comments, yep.
And we will see you next time for whatever we do after this.
Exactly. So peace.